Welcome your beautiful faces to day number 4 of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. Indeed, this is a fantastic way to kick off the 2022 PUBG Mobile European scene. And I'm not alone. Of course, you can see I think it's to my left, the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, the beast, I'm running out of ways to describe it, but it's the Sute. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Imperium, and you're looking really lively today. Looking good.
Thank you.
I like the flannel. Also, I found my hat, so the hat's back on.
I noticed, man. I like it. It makes me a little bit happier seeing it, man.
Oh yeah, thank you. It was actually just in my suitcase, so I mean,
okay.
I was blind. I don't know why I couldn't find it, but yeah, Imperium, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. And just going into, we're about to head into day number 4, right? It's
yes.
I believe we're almost 1/3 of the way in, if I'm not mistaken. So, these games are definitely flying by.
They are flying by, and they're starting to really heat up in my eyes. To give you all a little bit of context, let's head into the overall standings from yesterday's games, or at the end of yesterday's game, so it gives us a much stronger idea of where the community stand, how they're doing, and how close it is realistically. France still holding on to the top spot, but compared to game 2, it's a hell of a lot closer.
Yeah, France right now is actually, the scores are extremely close to one another. France, as you mentioned, holding the top spot. Romania close behind, only 3 points behind. It's like if you want to consider it this way, right? Like, we see scores this close from time to time, but once these scores, right here you can see the scores now on your screen. France at 203, Romania at 200, Germany at 195. So not only are these scores close community-wise, this is the combined totals of 2 teams representing each community, and it's still this close. Like, I get if it's like 1 team per, representing each area because they're close in skill level, but when you have combined teams and it's still this close, it kind of just goes to show there's a very nice balance of skill within each community in of its own.
Definitely. One thing that stands out, well, there's a couple of things that stand out. The first thing is the amount of eliminations that the Germany community has. Of course, most of them have been pulled out by Big. 110 eliminations, currently the highest of the lobby. And to bring yesterday into account a little bit more heavily, fun fact about yesterday's games, up until that point, we had no score. Actually, sorry, we had 1 score above 30 points. Yesterday, we had 2. Secured by Big on one of them, and then the other secured by 7up. So it does show that the standard is rising up, and the likes of the German community not afraid to get those kills. But Italy, yes, they're on 4th, but they have 0 chicken dinners. You need to be executing those wins. Red Moon, La Familia, we're recognizing it. We're seeing what you're able to pull out, but you got to get the job done. It's the only way you're realistically going to break into the top 3, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, and something I want to correlate that I just noticed, you mentioned Italy has 0 chicken dinners, right? I think when you get a chicken dinner, things kind of line up, and you also end up getting a lot of eliminations that match. Yeah, Italy at 63. If you look, further down, the Nordic has 80. Czech Republic 62. Sure, they're only 1 elim short, but the overall score is such a big contrast that, if Italy were to just get that 1 chicken dinner, I'm sure the Italy team, whichever team representing, that community, can pick up a lot of elimination points in that 1 chicken dinner match alone.
Yeah, definitely. Now, there is a little bit of a asterisk on Spain's points right now, because they're at 119, but they do have less games played compared to the 5 teams ahead of them. So that does put them in a good spot to pick up a couple of extra points across the next 4 games today, and of course the 4 games after tomorrow. So I'm really looking for Respect and Team Bravos to pick up the pace, to pick up the aggression and get some strong results on board. We saw signs of it yesterday when REXPECT started the day with a fantastic amount of points, but it fell off. Unfortunately, it fell off. It needs to be different today.
Definitely, it does need to be different today. With something else that's different today, the groups that are playing. We're alternating groups each day, and for today, Group C is sitting out, so the teams of Chasma, Showdown, Big, and 4 Romanian men will not be playing today. So you will not be seeing, you know, Big with their big aggression at the start of each game. Maybe we might see some slower games now, you know, because it was always Big at the start of the show. And well, we're already starting it off on Erangel. Plane path looking very good. And the first thing that I'm noticing is Pachinki. No one is in Pachinki at all. Where Mega Power deciding to drop an Ovo on the southeast instead. And of course, Showdown's not playing today, so that's why they're not contesting in Pachinki.
Yeah, but I call that a lack of awareness of what teams are in the same lobby as you. Maybe Mega Power just generally feel more comfortable in Novo, but I would highly disagree with that considering the last 2 days they've dropped in Pachinki. Sorry, the last 3 days they've dropped in Pachinki every single time. So a bit of a little bit of lack of awareness for Mega Power at the start of this game.
Yeah, and speaking about the start of the game, we got 7-Up, or I believe this is not 7-Up. Trying to discern, but this is definitely Bravis. Okay, Lemniscate, right, the 8-figure. So yeah, Bravis and Lemniscate in a hot drop split fight. We got 4 players of Lemniscate stacked up together at the tower. It looks like Bravis has somewhat of a surround on them. So they do have really nice angles, but if Lemniscate can understand where the Bravis players are set up, they could definitely isolate players such as Morphe Boy. So Morphe's got to know how to readjust to go back into the sightlines of his teammates, but I don't think he's going to be able to do that, and he gets taken down on his own.
Yeah, it's really good coming out from Lemniscate. I really like that and appreciate the kind of 3-1 split that they have. Of course, a few of their players are down to a little bit of health, so although the kill is being confirmed by Bravis, by no means is it absolutely won by the members of Lemniscate. Bravis has no real response in a quick way, which means the first aids are able to be pulled out for the most part from the players from Lemniscate. They're going to go back to the comfort of those buildings. Once again, the 3-1 split, it's good play from Lemniscate. I hope that Versace is given a first aid by his team if it's available, but it doesn't look that way because Freeze, he has even less health, and Shesh, he's not looking too good either.
Yeah, the only loot they've had are from these few couple of buildings, and you notice how Bravis also has weapons. That quite means like there's 8 people that just looted these buildings, so whatever little scrap stuff they could get, that's pretty much it. And another player gets knocked from Lemniscate. A revive can go through, but the question is how aggressive will Bravis be? They know that's an opening, and the meds are definitely sure. Lemniscate with 4 players, but the overall health total is definitely less on the Lemniscate side compared to Bravis.
And Forever was the last player that realistically should have got knocked from Lemniscate because he was the only player with full health, and now he's down to a sliver. Spyro comes on board, gets a knock on the GRÉCE. Versace goes down, Shesh tries to jump down, is able to execute one of the Bravis players. But back up against the wall, Lewis is up in towards the roof of the building. Shesh confirms that kill. We're into a 1v1 if I'm not mistaken between Shesh and Louis. Louis does have the higher amount of health. Comes out of the doorway, does get the knock on the Forever into a 1v2. It just turns around and gets a final blow. That's going to be a squad wipe for Lemniscate.
Really beautifully well done by Lemniscate. You know the team fights are always nice when you are the last player alive on your team and all 3 of your teammates are only just knocked and none of them thirsted. Meaning, you know, the synergy was there that the enemy players did not have the time to shoot a few bullets into a knocked player. The trades were instant. The pressure that was kept on by each Lemniscate player on point. So they get that full reset. Very beautiful to see. Of course, they started off the fight at the advantage, you know, in that 4v3 after they isolated 1 player. But still, their health totals were low, so it was not an easy 4v3 by any means.
No, it wasn't, but they'll take it and they'll be able to move on. Of course, their looting phase has been heavily slowed down with the fact that they've had to take this fight. 7UP, unfortunately, now have Game Lord looting around the Asnaya, so they do move away pretty quickly, which I like to see. That phase 1 we haven't really talked about, but it is quite central, a little bit of military island in play. Not too bad for these teams.
Definitely not. And we were talking about Mega Power for a little bit before the fight broke out, right, Imperium? So you were saying it's a lack of awareness as to why they don't drop in Pachinki. That could very well be the reason. Like maybe they wanted Pachinki, but they thought we don't want to take a fight with a Showdown, right? But on the opposite end, it could also be the fact that, these teams are, a bit newer when it comes to how experienced they are when it comes to PMGC. And so we see very high level teams very comfortable with 2 different drop spots, right? They know the rotations, they know the strategy, the game plan on 2 different drop spots, but maybe Mega Power only, is trying to figure out the very first one. So if Pachinki is, contested more often than not when Showdown is playing, maybe they want to give it up altogether and just focus on another area of the map completely and flesh out their strategy starting from Novo. Like maybe they don't even want Pachinki at all because even if it's free this game, in future games it's not, and they just want to figure out one place that they could loot quietly and continue on for the rest of the game.
I really hope you're right, because that would both be sensible and respectful, and it would really kind of like back up what we talked about yesterday in terms of hot drops and contesting and the mentality behind that. We'll have to wait and see when it comes to tomorrow's games, but for the time being, dropped in Novo, they're gonna have to make their way in. Right now, you saw them taking a couple of shots towards YMCA, but they got shut down quite nicely. Credit to the YMCA boys. This compound, it can be a bit of a hotly contested compound when the circles are around this kind of shelter central part of the map, especially when you get to phase 2, phase 3. I'll always remember a game that I was commentating, I think it was Scrims with Monica, where Novo got contested on by something like 3 teams back to back to back. And it was absolute, you remember that? Absolute cluster. But it's not the first time it's happened around here. As I said, it's a hotly contested compound in this area of the map.
It's great that you bring that up. I feel like during that time period, there was like a clear meta shift, right? We were it was during the time when PEL, the China side of the tournaments, really started ramping up. And a lot of teams started to notice that, hey, these Chinese teams are really good at third partying. Like they're so aware of the rotations of teams, and they're so aware of the kill feed that, if a fight takes more than 1 minute, even on Erangel, another team's coming by to third party. And I think, we kind of saw it happen in the NA scene. A lot of teams started trying to focus on capitalizing on third parties. And I do believe that was a prime example, the fight at that compound you're talking about. 3 different other teams showed up, one after another. So that was really cool to see from a analyst standpoint almost.
Or man, Team Glore. Fun. Oh, well, okay. A non-fun fact, and I don't say this in a way to beat them down, because one, this is a community event, right? This is about the communities getting behind the teams, the countries getting behind their teams, and just having a bit of fun around it while supporting your teams and banding together. I only say this because, like Team Bravos, who I highlighted on their improvements from day 1 to day 2, Team Glory yesterday, sorry to say, Zute got 0 points across the day.
Yeah, I see that now.
0 points. It's a shame, and I'm not saying it to bash on them. I'm not saying it to say that they're an absolutely terrible team. I'm saying it in terms of, hey, pick it up. We saw it in the PMGC League Stage East when it came to Enigma Galaxy as an example, when they got 1 point in 5 games, I believe. So shows what you got. I want to see that teamwork and that kind of turnaround from Team Glory. I know it's at a different stage, a different level, but it's always a sign of a strong team, mentally wise, confidence wise, if they're able to turn it around.
We do have the next circle shift. It does go further to the south. Military base still in play, but it is pretty much irrelevant. And just more so pointing out how far the circle did shift south. Now the center of the circle is on that hillside of Erangel, right down the middle. We see so many teams play some very nice splits there. So interested to see which team can get up there, because there's quite a big of buffer zone at that compound we were talking about earlier. With that team just sitting right there, might prevent a lot of teams from going up the mountaintop. Eastern Stars utilizing the lumberyard area, taking a nice little split on the high ground V100 with some amazing shots, almost getting a knock onto Athos.
Oh, Octavian, the man himself has played today. Let's go. Octadaddy, he's also known as. He has an account name called Octadaddy, which I think is absolutely amazing. So it's nice to see Octavian playing in these games again. The addition of Doran, I think, is overall very positive for Eastern Stars, but you can't forget the OG of Octavian and what he has done for the team and what he'll continue to do for the team. Uncanny had a pretty good day yesterday. They've opted to go for that compound down by the side of Potato Hill, which is great. And LMV, the German representatives, they didn't play yesterday's game, so they've had a technical day's break. And now today, they're the sole German representatives. Big are not playing. I want to see the LMV power.
Yeah, they got some big shoes to fill. Like, no pun even intended. I mean, big is just it's so easy to make puns with the big team, of course. But yeah, big not playing. LMV, they got some big shoes to fill. But we have seen LMV. You know, they're a team that can do well in certain situations. Definitely not a lackluster team by any means. And we see right here, you know, playing a nice 2-2 split. The angles are set up to support one another. So looking like a very mature squad, so to say.
Yeah, and I think they're one of the few, not one of the few teams, but one of the teams that really nailed down a strong 2-2 split. But I think one thing that hurts them is that they're not as adaptable as some of the other teams. Fight though breaking out between 7UP and Game Lord. As Starkey did get a knock, but got secondarily knocked from behind. So now it just leaves Chorche and Sohn. It's a former Entropic roster. Sans with his terrible IGN spelling. He's knocked. That's what he gets for having a terribly spelled IGN. And the final two players of 7UP will just disengage.
Yeah, so we were just talking about 2-2 splits just now. 7UP also holding a 2-2. And just that 2-2 is not bad, but the adjustment was not done correctly. The second the dip players were starting to get pressured, they needed to readjust and send another player from the compound over to help and change that 2-2 into a 3-1. But you saw both players just sitting at the compound trying to take shots at the team of Game Lord, right? So there was some miscommunication and synergy there about who's going to stay behind and try and cover fire and who's going to just, you know, take the car and just drive up closer to help support the team.
A little bit surprised that REXPECT couldn't get more heavily involved in a potential third party, but maybe they were like, look, it's still only phase 2. It's not worth it. We'll be aware. We know what's going on, and we can try and punish them later on. Either way, Game Lord, they take the kills, they take the loot, they move away. That's good movement from Game Lord. Sometimes teams kind of grab a couple of kills and then they'll stay where they've got the kills and then they end up getting third party. Game Lord moving away shows that, hey, we're getting into phase 2 closing in. We could get punished. Let's just disengage.
Yeah, I think they're actually doing a split. They're going to do the same exact split that 7UP was doing. We saw like if you look at the northeast of that map, the dark green Game Lord, they're readjusting to do the same exact split 7UP did. Now, one thing I really love about this is just because something failed, such as 7UP's 2-2 split, does not mean it's not a good split. It just means 7UP failed the execution of doing that. And so Game Lord, they recognize the other two players left. They know the split is a good one if done correctly. So they're going to go ahead and readjust and do the same thing. And now you see the third player and the fourth player starting to moving away from that dip. They're probably doing some preemptive scouting since the next circle is about to shift on up.
I absolutely love Mega Power spread across the south eastern edge of farm. I think it gives them a lot of information. There's a risk that one of them could get caught out, but I really respect it, especially when we're getting into the end of a circle towards the start of the next. It gives them a lot of rotational variabilities based on how this next shift goes. Centralizes up. It's not too bad, but I think now is where they could maybe look to band together a little bit more, because you're going to have Eastern Stars to the east of them, Lemniscate inside farm. They could go for the push on Lemniscate.
This map right now is just pretty much divided into low ground and high ground. North of the map is the mountainous terrain of Erangel. It might not look like a mountain, but that's just one huge sprawling hillside. And to the south of it, it's just all low ground with a lot of, different compounds scattered and shacks scattered in between. So next circle shift is going to change the dynamic of this fight greatly. Meanwhile, Mega Power getting a nice knock onto Lemniscate. They look like they're neighbors right now, but it looks like the Mega Power team is trying to push closer as Lemniscate gets the trade. A grenade flies in, almost getting a second knock, but it does not fully connect.
It was actually a third party by Eastern Stars. Kapahala, the Warlord, got the knock on Rex. Mega Power went for a bit of a breach, but it wasn't really the push that I hope to see. And maybe that's part of the fact that they did kind of band together, but it was like a half band together. Rex unfortunately loses his life. Lemniscate has two players knocked down. Lodges driving in with the vehicle, goes out, has to get the knock on the freeze. That's it. Cold as ice on the shots. Lodges unfortunately does go down. But at the end of the day, it's a possibility for Mega Power to clean this fight up. Eastern Stars looking for a third party, but one of their players is knocked down in the distance. Mega Power down to 2, but they're confirming the kills.
This is a three-way tango we're watching here right now, Imperium, and it's not just any three-way tango. We got the Eastern Stars, Mega Power at Lemniscate, arguably some of the more higher tier teams in here. So really fun to see this interaction play out. And you see here, Eastern Stars actually get 2 of their players knocked, and they're the team trying to pull off the third party, meaning the reaction, the adjustment, and just the communication really on point for Mega Power. It's not every day you see a team get third partied by a team like Eastern Stars and then managing to recover and readjust. So Mega Power did lose 1 player. They're down to 3, but they picked up some elim points. And Lemniscate definitely not getting the better end of all this trading because they're down to a solo.
Lodges Hunter Versace. That is indeed the end of Lemniscate. Lovely nade by one of the Eastern Stars players to send Birthday back into the warehouse, and now Mega Power and Eastern Stars can focus on each other. Initially, Mega Power has the advantage because look at where 3 of the Eastern Stars players are. They're absolutely there for the taking. That's why Octavian gets back into the buggy. Is like, look, I'm going to go down with the 2 of yous if I don't disengage away. I appreciate that decision made by Octavian.
Very good adjustment there. The longer they stay holed up in that area, a grenade might likely come through, and Kapahala actually just gets ripped from the buggy, so unfortunate for him. Now Mega Power in a 3v3 situation. Really well done by Mega Power. Rete stayed back the entire time and trusted his teammates to be able to pull off the execution on Lemniscate, and because Rete stayed back, he, as a solo player, kind of stopped the third party. You saw that angle. He knocked 2 of the Eastern Stars from this position. So really well done. This is why playing split pushes is super effective, because the second a third party comes through, if you're holding that back anchor point angle, you could really save an entire team from being third party. And the next circle has come up, and we are going to go up to the hilly side of this last few zones.
Yeah, a lot of the southern flatlands or low ground is taken off the board. 7 up, the final 2 players looking to be finished off by Game Lord. They started a couple of minutes ago. Let's see what they can do. A couple of teams are getting involved though this time around. Golden Esports were not playing yesterday, but they are playing today, representing Portugal. Team that are currently, or the community should I say, that are currently last. So I'd like to see a little bit more from the Portuguese community teams in these games. I know Portugal isn't exactly a country known for its high level of PUBG mobile teams, but be surprised what they can pull out, especially when you're representing your country. They disengaged as they did lose 1 player, but Chief Ari and Bosoki able to get into the circle.
This circle is going to put a lot of teams in a very big question mark, because that hillside is normally just controlled by 1 or 2 teams max. So with multiple teams needing to breach up there to control the advantage position, it's going to be really difficult. I imagine we're going to see more teams just kind of take the low ground and keep their heads down to try and survive. Eastern Star still in a really...
Oh my god.
That was...
Oh my god.
What, a 5-bullet burst? And he took him down? That was the quickest peak. Wow. Okay, just wow. I'm at lots of words.
And what was worse is that 2 of the Eastern Stars players re-flanked around on the other side and got the knock and the retake to the point where the Logist and the third Mega Power player couldn't do anything about that. And when they did, Athos got the knock onto retake. So the communication, the resilience to kind of turn around ability from Eastern Stars, I know we talk about them so much, but that's just a classic example of just how good of a team they are.
100%. Rex going for their rotation here, breaching on in onto the high ground. Are they going to play the edge or go a little bit further in for a better position? It looks like they do see it's clear, so they're going to push a little bit closer. But as soon as they reach the crest of this hill, I do imagine they're going to slow down, because you don't want to drive blindly over the tip into potentially another team. And now this is what I'm talking about. So many of the teams just trying to figure out where to play in this mountainous terrain. Mega Power, the last player, fella, he's going to get kind of close to the edge, take a quick pit stop, get a better sense of what's going on around him. Game Lord here, with 3 players up, trying to control the edge of the zone. They do have a nice circle shift. You see it right there on the top right of your screen. It is going to end on the high grounds now.
Team Glor on the Western Edge, like the name of a 1990s WWE wrestler, but you gotta love it. Let's see if they have the moves, the wrestling moves to become the champion of this game. They pushed into the edge of the circle, a couple of shots towards the members of Golden Esports on top of the roadside, the circle shifting up. Northeastern Stars down to just 1. Athos on his own. We saw the 5 spray shots onto one of the members of Mega Power earlier on. He's gonna have to do a hell of a lot more if he's gonna make it into the edge of this current circle.
No first aids either. Athos definitely has to commit to some type of play. He can't stay out in blue and try and heal anything up right now. La Familia with 4 members alive. They need to find a way up that mountainside as well. And if you're a team at this point, this late in the game, playing on the low ground, even with 4 players, it's going to be extremely difficult. It's going to take a process of using your cars for cover, using smokes, and using those timings as other teams try and push in to try and slowly crawl and breach your way up to the top. The 100 making their rotation. They have a nice entry point right here, already on the high ground. No real problems there. And 1 player already touched the edge of the next circle.
Yep.
So not much concern or worry for them.
Well, yes, right now, for sure, but where's the spread? Where's the control, right? If you leave it too late, you're going to lose that ability to control. Reznov pushes forward with one of his teammates. That's good. That's what I want to see, the proactivity around when the bullets need to fly out. The guns need to be loaded up, because he needs to gain control. Can he? Looking over the distance, peeking towards the bottom of the hill where the likes of La Familia are waiting in the wings. YMCA in the northern edge of the circle have the 100 to one side of them, and the side of Respect to the other. LV pushing on in and eliminate the side of Glor with the help of the third party from Golden Esports.
Uncanny getting the next zone. You see 4 of them just stacked up on that wizard tower. That's really good for them, being able to keep 4 alive up to this point. YMCA taking long distance shots at the 100 with the DP, which by far is still one of the most lethal weapons in the game of PUBG Mobile. I think every player at this point, anytime you see a DP, you take that thing, because the accuracy is really good. The recoil is actually really low, and of course the firing power of a 7.62 weapon, you can never underestimate it.
I totally agree. A Spearer gets knocked down. An SLR from Lou.
That's the push.
SLR as common, but indeed that's the push that LME are going to make. It's important. They do respect on the northern side at the top of the hill. I don't know what information they have on that. It is a couple of nades flying out, but it's not really a proper push. It's not the kind of push I wanted to see from the three-man LMV side. Lose down to low health. Perks gets knocked by Scotty. If you're going to push, you gotta push. I am aware that Uncanny had a full squad. The LMV don't have a full squad. Otherwise, just don't go for the push because that's a very risky spot they're in.
I don't mind the push, but I don't like their spread. If they're going to go for the push and breach a little bit closer using that knock, we see top-level teams do it all the time, but as soon as they make the initial push, if they don't full commit, they spread out a little bit. But Uncanny, though, not able to get the better end of it. And, well, LMB, they slowed down that push, got a little bit lucky, I would say, with the reset, and with Uncanny not, you know, really pressing in on them. So LMB will end up taking this fight potentially 3v2 situation at the shack. That's another player down, one player up, and LMB with a clean finish. It did get a little bit riskier than needed, but really well done. YMCA on the other end taking the fight to the 100.
Like I said about the 100, you got the position, the anchor point in the edge of the previous circle. You moved up, but where was the control, right? You let YMCA stomp all over you one by one. That's what you get. Respect down to just one player. Bixay Goat gets confirmed with the vehicle being blown up. Golden Esports, they have to push in from the shack into the eastern edge. La Familia down on the south side. I believe they're the only team that's actually on that low ground, and
yes,
I can't help but think that they probably have the best position right now.
Surprisingly so, given the circle, right? Everybody's on the high ground because so little of the low ground was left on the map. But that hard shift to the south will definitely help them out. They can just keep their heads low while all these other teams fight it out. YMCA still in a gridlock with the 100, and it's down to a 1v1, so even trades back and forth between these two teams. Ketu going for that revive. He will be able... Oh, never mind. Circle's actually closing. I was not aware of how late this fight has taken. Now he's forced to run in the open, try and get in zone. LMV on the defensive now, trying to pick up all of these kills from all the players trying to reach towards their spot in the zone. 9
eliminations for the German representatives of LMV. We said that they had big shoes to fill. Well, right now, they're certainly filling them into the top 4. Golden Esports are taken out. 100, Blix stands up to the plate as the last player for his side. A couple of knocks in towards the members of La Familia gives a tiny bit of space for Blix as he pulls out a first aid. Luckily, there's that tiny little bit of a top dip, which is stopping LMV really pushing over and giving the time for Blix to chuck out an aid, get off a first aid, breathe deep, calm down, and find himself.
Blix has almost done 200 damage in grenades alone, just from watching him hold that 1v3 against LMV. 2 of the players had their HP chunked to the red area twice by now, so LMV really having a tough time trying to take out Blix. And La Familia, they're gonna try and take advantage of this, move up a little bit closer. You see Clay moving up to that rock. That's another point of cover that they can use, and the zone has shifted a little bit more to the high ground. That's why you see LMV potentially risking getting locked, or not LMV, La Familia potentially getting knocked using their smokes to try and encroach higher up onto the high ground.
Blix trying to hover in, and knock comes out by Lou onto one of the players of La Familia trading. He's waiting for his time to strike. Playing this as perfectly as he can as a solo player. Unfortunately, Talon is going to reap the rewards. The benefit comes through. Evil Boy, Clay. It's a 2v3, but the players from LMV aren't exactly looking the healthiest. A nade here, a nade there, looking to be thrown in by the members of La Familia. Evil Boy thrown down, goes for shots on the perks, misses him enough to the point where he's not knocked down, but he stands up to the plate, gets a knock on the Talon. Clay plays around in the corner looking for Lou. It's a 1v1 if I'm not mistaken, and it's going to be won by La Familia.
Beautifully done by La Familia. I was saying like the camera was even on La Familia at one point. I was saying they're gonna have to just figure out a way onto the low ground and keep their heads low, and that's exactly what happened. They were the team that managed to find their way into that low spot of the map. And well, luckily for them, the circle did kind of shift down to that low ground, but that was not an easy fight to win, to clutch it out. They had the likes of LMB, who looked really strong on the high ground, pressing down in. Technically, LMB did have the advantage in some way, but the grenades and the smokes, and obviously it just came down to the raw gunpowder, and La Familia took the chicken dinner for that one.
I don't think LMV could have played that final fight any better, because they knew that the last player of the 100 were there, so they couldn't really push down that hill as cleanly as they possibly would have if they had have confirmed that kill earlier on the Blix. Never mind the fact that in the very late stages of the game, when you're on the high ground, to be honest, you're at that disadvantage point because way more of your body is exposed. So the fact that they just pushed down the hill, really, like, it was, hey, we got nothing to lose. They'd already got 12 eliminations. 3 points difference between kind of chicken dinner and second. You're not really going to argue with that. In my eyes, LMV overall still played a pretty damn perfect game. Bar the nearly, you know, that little bit of luck, it was still very well played by LMV.
Yeah, so I really love how you mentioned that the high ground isn't always advantageous. So to clear it up for the viewers, the high ground is advantageous when you have time to work from the high ground, right? But when you're forced in the late game to make a move and push down from the high ground, of course, you're running wide in the open and just, you know, more of your body is indeed exposed going down. So, like, they had the advantage if they could take care of Blix, but they couldn't, right? Imagine if they took care of Blix and then they had the high ground all to themselves, and then they could peek whenever they want to try and shoot into La Familia and then press down. It'd be a whole different story. But of course, Blix, with his grenades and with his last stand, did put in a lot of damage onto the side of LMV. And that ultimately is a huge factor in why I think LMV did lose that fight.
Blix clutched it up for his team. Out of the 8 eliminations they had, he had 5. And that was, I believe, when he was a solo player. If I'm not mistaken, he got, I believe he kind of got the squad up onto Golden Esports and the end of YMCA. I'm not exactly sure where his eliminations came from, but either way, he put the work in to get his team into third. It should have been genuinely a much better team game performance from the 100, genuinely. And I'm trying not to be too harsh, but I know their caliber. I know that they're kind of better than what they showed in that game. But when you're talking about that kind of little bit of clutch factor, props to Blix because he clutched it up.
Yeah, if the grenade was just 1 inch closer to one of the players of LMV, it would have been a completely different story. Because like I mentioned while we were watching, he did over 200 plus damage in grenades alone. Crazy. He just constantly got 2 players down to the red health area, but he couldn't manage to just land it perfectly enough to get the knock. But what a final game ending. That was Erangel, one of the maps that, you know, a lot of teams are familiar with. And I think we kind of saw it play out. We saw the teams with a slight advantage really take care of, really take advantage of it. And, you know, they pressed on through, and the teams at the disadvantage made the most of what they could.
Yeah, exactly. Hang on, game 1. I thought the circle shifts were good. And La Familia, by the way, on a side note, before we go to break, they dropped in Military Island. So, I'm sorry, but this whole circle up BS, it's got nothing to do with it. All about how you perform as a team, how you position yourself, and how forward thinking you are. Well played to La Familia. On that note, we're going to go for a break. The highlights are going to show up, and afterwards we'll have the match results followed by game 2. Don't go away. Ciao! Welcome back to the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. I say ciao because for the first time, we have an Italian chicken dinner Zute. We talked about it before the broadcast and the prophecy comes through. Man, I love to see it.
Yeah, it's I love it when we mention something on stream, like before the match starts or about to like talk about something, and it comes true. Like the teams representing the French community, like they realize themselves, hey, we have not gotten a chicken. Let's put ourselves on the map, and it, you know, that energy internalizes, and it really came through in the shape and form of La Familia. We saw them work up from that low ground, and it was not an easy win by any means. So they are quite, I'm pretty sure they are quite happy with the fact they finally secured a chicken for their community. And of course, with that chicken, they did get a lot of points as well. But there's something interesting that you're about to see up on the screen that you might not expect in Imperium.
That is the fact that even though La Familia got the chicken dinner, the 12 elimination points from LMV did secure them the highest amount of points in this game with a total of 24. That's what I said, like they knew at the end that they'd done enough that second place. Not that they settled for second place, because I think settling for second place would have been not doing anything at the top of the hill. They're like, look, we got nothing to lose. Let's just push it. If we win, we win.
Right. And one key thing I want to highlight, we talked about it the other day, that one crucial fight. We saw 7UP yesterday in a deadly fight with a 4 Romanian win. They won that fight, and then they won the match with a massive amount of points. Well, LMV, they didn't win this match, but LMV took a fight with the Uncanny, right, in that 7th place position, who only finished it off with 6 points. And thinking back to that fight, I feel like Uncanny, one, they didn't press their advantage off of, you know, the initial block.
They didn't.
And number 2, even if you're going to hold defensive because you have the zone, right, because LMV has to push into you, you can't just stack all the players in one area. Putting 3 players at that shack did absolutely nothing for them. Have just 1 or 2 at most. Have the 4th player, you know, further back to hold a cover angle in case LMV gets too close and gets strike from distance at a position, you know, they're not, you know, prepared for. But if Uncanny held that defense, we would very much easily see Uncanny in the top 3, and LMV would be way further down. So that was one crucial team fight that we did get to watch unfold on the screen.
Props to the 2 Portuguese teams though, Golden Esports and Uncanny. I highlighted the fact that they're coming into today's games at the bottom of the community standings with a total of 48 points. Both teams doing well in this game, I think, is a really positive sign for them, challenging not only Greece but possibly United Kingdom down the line. And it's just that continued evolution. You talked about the mistakes from Uncanny, but they still had themselves in a good position for quite a while at the top of the hill. In Golden Esports, they got 8 placement points, but only 1 elimination, left them with 9. On the opposite end for the Italian community, unfortunately, Red Moon got 0 points. It's a little bit of a feels bad, man. Eastern Stars only getting 4, and the 2 Greek sides, they need to really kind of get themselves together. They need to really kind of like dust themselves off, and we saw Lemniscae pick up a very early squad out, but unfortunately they couldn't seem to find their momentum after that.
Yeah, Lemniscae, the only points they got were those 4 elim points off the hot drop, so at least there is that for them. And yesterday we talked about 7UP, how they're very inconsistent, but they're a team with some experience, right? And so that trend continues. 7UP finishing with only 1 point. And in my opinion, there's never a good excuse for doing bad on any map, right? If you're a competitive team, you should be able to get some sort of points on Sanhok, Miramar, and Erangel. But Erangel is the map that I would say consistency should be the easiest thing. So kind of disappointing to see, you know, 7UP start off the day with such a bad game. I want to see if they could, you know, pick it up, because we saw how explosive and powerful they could be in yesterday's, you know, Erangel match. So I want to see them start picking it up and maybe, you know, provide more, you know, firepower and more challenge to the rest of the lobby.
Yeah, for sure. Couldn't agree anymore. Miramar is coming up. It's going to be the second map of the day. I'm excited to see. I haven't really done calculations on what teams are looking the best per map, but at least when we look back over the last couple of days, the team that's won Miramar 7-Up have won a Miramar game. They've actually looked very good in Miramar when we're talking about 7-Up, to kind of continue a little bit of a trend and connect it to the map. 25 in the first day, 10 in day 2, and 19 in day 3. So consistently, Miramar have actually been 7-Up's strongest map. Just it was happened that I just picked their team and picked that team, and it happened to coincide with Miramar.
Oh man, you know what you just did, Imperium?
Did I cast or curse them?
Yes. I'm pretty sure, I'm willing to bet 7-Up is not gonna have a good game on this Miramar.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man.
I mean, I'm gonna throw it out there, like, no, but that is, you know, cast a curse aside, we'll see if it happens or not. But that's a very interesting, you know, interesting fact. Miramar, it's a map that's more difficult to be consistent on. But I remember the days of old. A team like BTR, this was their map actually. BTR was kind of known. BTR and RRQ, those were the two teams that were kind of known for being like the Miramar juggernauts, right? They figured out Miramar, you know, at a deeper strategic level than many other teams, and they were able to kind of, you know, have a more consistent dominance on it. And so 7-Up, I mean, is it luck or is it consistency? You gave out 3 games, you know, that they've played in the past 3 days. So if they do well again here, I feel like maybe they have figured out Miramar to a higher level. And also, if they do well here, well, I mean, the Caster Curse, I guess it just won't, you know, come true. And the playing path, before I continue on anymore, on the northeast side, down to the south, more towards the middle, not the friendliest of playing paths. We're going to see a lot of teams trying to stretch towards their drop spots on the western side of the map.
Yeah, there's a cluster around the San Martin Hacienda area, at least. I believe that's team. It's Game Lord. They normally go to San Martin, so they're going to grab their vehicles and move their way across. You have, I believe, Golden Esports around there, Team Galore, REXPECT in around water treatment. And what doesn't help even more is that Phase 1 is on that western side, so we are going to have an even bigger cluster of teams on the eastern edge of the circle.
Glore right now just trying to secure some vehicles to drive to wherever their primary loot location is. Another huge problem with this playing path is all of the roads stretching to the west is going to be a huge cluster for multiple teams trying to vie for the vehicles. So far, I think we have lost 1 player. There's 63 alive right now. Not sure which team has lost that player. And here on your screen, 7-Up, team that we were just talking about. They're doing somewhat of a split drop off to start. Looking like they're all in pretty safe areas, but of course Starkey right now has 3 players of the team 100 hovering above him.
Yeah, and a part of that is because the 100 were one of the first teams to drop in El Azahar with the playing path, so they've already had a relatively quick looting phase. Now it's a 2-2 split. They're not going to know that Starkey is there. The doors have only been opened on one side, but they might see the bottom door come on through. Shot by Starkey down to a little bit of health. Picks up 1 knock. The Rednov. Can he find a second on to Will? 5 bandages being laid out. Unfortunately, it doesn't work his way because Blix is on top of the mountain and does get the knock.
Speaking of caster curses, what a better way
Whoa! We'll see.
Okay. Oh, hold on. Never mind. Scratch that.
Exactly. Excuse me. I'm insulted. 7-Up are insulted, Zute.
I don't know, actually. Maybe Castle Curse is still ringing true right now because really good trade, really good shots by that 7-Up player. But 100 had the separate angle set up, and Daddy IGL does get that trade, and 100's going to get the full reset. For sure, 7-Up lost 1 player, but if 100 decide to press this off of that second knock, they could potentially pick up not just 2, but the entire team if they try and get the revive on their second player that got knocked off on the 7-up side.
And I really like, I don't hold that against 7-up realistically, because I was even surprised when the 100 moved out of El Azahar so quickly. It's a good thing, because I'll always say this, a team that's able to get to their loot drop quicker than most other teams should always look to try and take advantage of that. And especially with this phase 1, disengaging away from El Azahar quickly would nearly always be a benefit to the 100. And that's an example right there. But I still don't hold it against 7-up.
Definitely not. We see Mega Power here looting the Picado area. Of course, no Game Lord here today, so Mega Power will be able to
not
loot.
Game Lord, Showdown.
Oh, Showdown. My mistake. Yeah, Showdown Gaming would be the team that would contest the Mega Power. So no Showdown here today. So Mega Power will be able to loot this area, to their heart's content, which, begs the question, why did they not loot, Pachinki then?
Exactly.
If they want to avoid. So maybe what you said was correct. There was a lack of awareness in game number 1 where they decided to drop Novo instead. That they might actually be switching their game plan for whatever reason to Novo, but I think it was more or less, they didn't want to take a fight. And coming into game number 2, they might have realized, oh, wait a second. The team that always contests us is not playing. So let's just go with our original drop spot plans.
Greek Army only starting as 3 players, which is a bit of a shame. YMCA looting up Valdemar. They went for kind of a deep south, west, but on the south side of the map drop, and it's worked out for them. They're gonna have clean access up and towards that kind of central part of phase 1. I'm thinking as soon as they finish looting up, take a couple of vehicles, go up to the La Drolera hill, and just plant their flag right down until phase 2 pops.
Yeah, we saw the circle. It was towards the west, and the plane path was far east. So YMCA deciding to start their loot location on that western side, like you mentioned, will give them a very good advantage as far as the first rotation goes. But it's yet to be seen how other teams have adjusted. We saw in the very beginning how far away multiple teams were, to the first circle that popped up. But we are now 7 minutes into the game. We could see some teams already rotating very early to start setting up in that first circle. And of course, Miramar is a map that, that first rotation actually plays a big, crucial role, right? On Erangel, you can get away with, last second rotations up to circle 4, maybe even circle 5 if you have a well-defined strategy. But on Miramar, I would say by circle 2 or 3, your rotation options become very limited due to the terrain and just due to teams just holding certain choke point areas.
And that's why, and I've talked to Blah about this when we were casting the MPL together, I firmly believe that Miramar is the truest test of a competitive team. Maybe not in pure gun skill, but in terms of strategic rotations, team communication synergy. And I think that kind of complements what you said about the likes of, at least in the past, BTR and RRQ being very dominant on this map. Nova have proven themselves on this map, although they've proven themselves on every map, but still, I firmly believe that, Miramar is the truest form of a competitive team.
Yeah, so now you see on your screen the map, and so, wow, a lot of teams. 7 minutes, we're 8 minutes in, and the center of the circle is being kind of filled with a nice spread from multiple teams. We see Mega Power, Bravis, and also Golden securing nice positions, taking those power positions. So very good to see how fast teams are rotating here. And it is Miramar after all, so they are very well aware how important the rotation, the very first rotation is versus taking your time and looting, right? So I would have to say though, the circles could still shift in any direction, obviously, and the dynamic is well within reach of just multiple different zones completely changing the outcome of how the game will be played out.
I like Golden. Actually, I don't know how much I like it because of how big of a split it is at the moment, but I did like this split from Golden Esports. on the Picado Hill, but we see one of the players is going a little bit more north, and he's getting quite close to the players from Uncanny. I know we're still relatively early into the game, but with the playing path, don't take it for granted that it's completely free around you. So I'd like to see a little bit more of a solidified spot being held down by that player from Golden Esports.
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned playing path, because if you told me this was a hard Eastern playing path to start and we were only like 8 minutes in earlier when this map got shown, I'd be surprised, because
I know,
so
right?
many teams have already filled in onto the western side so quickly. I think that's a nice display of just the overall level of the lobby, right? We keep saying it's not the highest, but literally we're comparing this to the big PMGC tournament that just happened. Of course, this is not a PMGC level tournament, but this, this tournament has enough good teams to capitalize on those fast rotations and take those nice positions, and also continue to play very nice clean splits.
And also we kind of want to see these teams in the future be in PMGC, right? We want them to aim for PMGC. So when we kind of highlight what PMGC teams are doing and kind of comparing them, it's because we want to see them get to that level in the future. It might take a week, it might take a month, it might take a year, hell, it could take even 2 years, but we still want to see the best from the teams here in the PMECT as the game continues on.
Statistically, out of all the 20 teams playing in this tournament, right, I would venture to say it is very likely not a single one of these teams will make the PMGC. And that's not to, dishearten them.
Eastern Stars? Big?
Okay,
like, Eastern Stars have been in PMGC.
Okay, other than
they got
Eastern
very close. Game
okay.
Nord got ridiculously close.
All right.
I'm going to kind of, call you out a little bit on that, Zute.
Okay, fair enough, but Eastern Stars, I did not have them in mind when I made that statement, but still, like, the level of competition to reach that PMGC level, right? I'm trying to put into perspective just how many thousands and thousands of teams try to grind things out, and it's not to discourage them or disappoint them, but it's more so to give them a fact, to let them know you have a very long road ahead of you, and it's honestly not cut out for everyone. So in a way, like, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, because the teams that have made it to PMGC, they definitely did not get there without being able to enjoy the game and enjoy their failures, right? If they took every failure to heart super hard, it is not an easy road to get to that level. And we're seeing another thing that's not easy to do, which is rotating on this Miramar map. Shots being rained out onto the YMCA team. One of the members of YMCA did have to make a little bit of a pit stop, getting maybe banged up too hard, or the car was about to explode. So he is essentially left behind now from the rest of his team, and Gloor are like sharks right now. They recognize this player's split, and they're going to come in and eat him right up.
Definitely value what you're bringing to the table with your point and the perspective you're going for. And a good few of these teams have already been trying for years to even get to PMPL level, never mind PMGC. So indeed, it's a long road ahead. Long road for YMCA K2 if he's going to survive against the members of Gloor. Nice to see this kind of aggression from Gloor. Talked about how they had a bit of a poor day yesterday. The poorest of days with 0 points. That's going to be at least 1 point secured today as they find K2.
Very good, reaction to isolating that player too. They only used 2 players out of the 4. That's really good to see. You saw the other 2 players hang on back, and even with those 2 players, they didn't make the amateur mistake of, oh, let's just push them together. It's a 2v1, because we've seen so many 2v1s lost because they have to rush up the stairs or go up a certain chokehold. So instead, they took their time, used their util, got a clean knock, and finished up that kill. So Glory, even though they've had very, subpar games, I see that they understand how to play certain engagements out. So I want to see that continued improvement, and maybe this might be the game for them, actually. Starting off with that 1 elim, small start in a match like Miramar, we're only 14 minutes in. But it could be a good finish for them at the end of this match.
The Familia, Mega Power Italy against Nordic countries. It's not looking good, especially with Eastern Stars getting involved. Always Eastern Stars, you know, kind of feel bad for the other teams, but it's like they're just prodding, poking at these teams as the PMDC that they are, right? You know, the ability they have to recognize the opportunity that is there, the 100 as well, getting involved on towards the members of Mega Power. I don't know if that's the full squad, like not quite onto Mega Power. Fella is alive.
Eastern Stars playing beautiful splits. They pretty much know every optimal split, which is why they're allowed to poke and prod, like you mentioned. And of course, their gun skills on point. They take a few shots, they're going to connect those shots. I mean, you saw in Erangel, at one point, one of the players did a quick, quick peek, shot out 5 bullets, and that instantly got the knock and unpeaked at, like, in less than a second. So the shots definitely connecting. Rex Esports right here, making a rotation, going for that compound, which I believe is in the center of the map. Next zone is about to shift out. The 100 taking advantage of the Eastern Stars' initial knock and finishing out the team, or not entirely finishing out the team of Mega Power. They're up to 4 elims, but I think Mega Power is down to maybe just 1 solo player.
I kind of feel bad for Mega Power because they got gauged by La Familia, Eastern Stars, and the 100. Like that's a cocktail and a half to try and deal with. And credit that they do still have 1 player alive out of all of it. Uncanny. You see, with the potential engagement by Game Lord, they already lost a player, so having 3 up and around that power grid region isn't the best. Phase 3 popping up north though keeps power grid in the sightlines, as well as Golden Esports. A beautiful position they have.
Oh, very nice position right there. We're up onto the high ground, but there is that huge divide of the low ground, similar to like the Erangel match that we just had, the high ground and the low ground. But this time around on Miramar, that high ground is even more treacherous to rotate on up to. I'm going to throw this out here right now because I'm familiar with the Eastern Stars. I know they're a high-level team. I wonder if they're going to make a huge wrapping rotation on the east side and almost go into the blue pretty much to converge in onto the north. That would be a really cool rotation to see. Like, I don't put it past the Eastern Stars. We'll see in a few moments. But more than likely they're going to work their way in.
I don't think they're as dynamic as that. At least they haven't always shown it. They will take their time. They'll be calculated, but they're not as kind of, oh, we're going to go like big brain on a rotation.
Yeah, it looked like they're going to work their way in. And honestly, working directly in is probably a skill that's more important to develop, right? Very rarely can you do a 300 IQ, huge wrapping blue zone rotation. Like that just, once in a blue moon, an opportunity arises to pull that off, which is great if you can. But for practice sakes, you do want to just work on your team synergy and breaching into the circle in a more direct path, which gives you more time to do. And of course, you'll have to fight some enemy players, but if you're the better team, that's elim points right there and positioning in the zone.
One of the Red Moon players is on his own, Red X, if I'm not mistaken. He's done a great job of slowing down Greek Army, of course, only starting as a 3-person team, so technically it's already an advantage. But a lovely nade by Milas sends Red X down to just 5 health. Moves away into the vehicle. Hybe looking to take the shots off. Will he be able to secure the knock? Where is the rest of Red Moon at this stage, right? Red X is doing a wonderful job of slowing Greek Army down, even disengaging away to the point of not quite getting knocked. And there's absolutely 0 team support from Red Moon. That's, in my opinion, extremely disappointing. It's too slow.
Definitely too slow. They're having too much trouble recognizing how to help out their teammate. And that's not good. Like, just to put it simply, like, I understand, that player of Red Moon is put in a really tough spot for your teammates to help out. But still, like you mentioned, Red X was putting up a fight. He was surviving for an extremely long time, trying to stall things out. And I think now, finally, the Red Moon team has decided to react and help. They isolated one player, picked up one Elam already, and Ed's got the smoke down. So maybe a little bit too critical of the Red Moon team because now they're finally...
No, it's too late though, because now Eastern Stars are third-partying them, right? Everything comes down to timing, and yes, you can't always calculate the time in which a team is going to come around you, but you can definitely calculate and control the time that you take to react to a situation. Too slow, it's a snowball effect. Eastern Stars third parties from behind.
You're absolutely right. So I would just only credit the fact that they knew what to do eventually, but definitely taking way too long to figure it out. Now they're being continually shot by Eastern Stars. They already got third party, had one of their players knocked. Now they lose another player. And not only that, they're slower on the rotation. They've lost their cars. The circle has shifted somewhere up to the northern side. And yeah, Red Moon, just everything's falling apart now at this point. And Eastern Stars coming in from the edge, looking very good.
Oh my god, Athos, see those shots though? Every time Coco moved away, he's like, spray, spray, spray. Absolutely complete suppression by Eastern Stars. Of course, both of these teams do have to prioritize the circle at some point. It has shifted up north. Once again, similar to the previous game, that volatility of the high ground on the hills of Power Grid to the low ground of where we have RECPECT 7 up and I think Golden Esports, but you're able to hold the side this side. That's why you have so many teams around. Greek Army, the last player, one of the last players alive, unfortunately gets knocked. Hype trying to deal with La Familia. Fortunately, he goes down.
Yeah, he gets flanked by the other La Familia member that is up. And Golden is actually playing all high ground. They're just doing a big 2-2 split. And when I say big, it's not big in the sense that it's crazy or anything. This is a 2-2 split we see all the time. You keep two at those shack compounds, right? You see them right there on the left-hand side. And then the other two players, well, who doesn't want to be on top of those rocks? I could see a 360 view of the entirety of low ground. Really good opportunity for them to pick up some knocks and some elims too with that vision control. And not only do they control the low ground, that's probably one of the highest peaks of the high ground as well. So they have a lot of vision and control on the high ground side of the map too.
And I like where RECPECT are, and I don't disagree with this compound and this kind of circle, but because it's so close to the edge of that cliff, you're kind of very suppressed right now, and they just need to consider the fact that Golden Esports are on top of the hill, very well placed around. Red Moon, the last player, gets taken out by the players of Team Bravo, so it's a good crash on the side of the shack. His Eastern Stars, like I said, will need to prioritize coming into the edge of the circle, and they took down a couple of players of one Italian side. Now they're looking for another, a run over potentially coming through. Oh no! It's all gone wrong as the vehicle blows up. Capahala, the Warlord, is the last player standing. La Familia can breathe a sigh of relief.
That push looked so good. They got the opening. They almost ran over the other player. But the shots just connected onto the vehicle, and instantly 3 players gone. The Team 100 cleared out their side of the northeastern edge, working it very well. The last player of the Eastern Stars running in from the blue, a little bit too late, does get taken down by La Familia. La Familia right now with 8 elims, and they do have a way into the next zone. Some of the zone is still on the low ground. It's going to be tough, but La Familia looking very strong. A really good start to the day in game number 1 with Erangel, and equally doing pretty well on Miramar.
Yeah, they did lose Evil Boy, unfortunately, by the Warlord Capahala, so having the extra player up could have really made a difference on this push into this next circle. We'll have to wait and see what they do. Shifting into the favor of both RECPECT, Golden Esports, and 7-Up, as well as LMV a little bit. More in the open field, and 100 up as a full squad. Good play by them as they cleaned out Uncanny earlier on, as Game Lord up on the north have to try and get past the side of Team Glore.
So, Imperium, I hate when I get asked this question, but with this zone, with a continuous 50-50, I'm just really curious if you had a prediction where is this zone gonna end? Like the very final one. Is
man.
it gonna be on the high ground or the low ground here?
Low ground. I'm calling Rexpect's compound. That's where I'm calling it. Yeah, it's a tough question. It's a tough question, and I get why you don't like it, but I also appreciate why you asked it.
Yeah, it's a constant 50-50 right now. Game Lord's right on the high ground, just continuously punishing Glor. Glor getting the worst of both teams, both Rex and the Game Lord taking shots at Glor. And in situations like this, I feel like Glor should have almost just took the fight to Game Lord and then try and make that rotation. And Game Lord meeting a similar fate, but at least they picked up some elim points potentially on the Glor side. And ooh, Rex really trying to hold this down right now. The solo player stopping everything.
Big A took a risk, but I appreciate why he did it, and it works out. A little bit similar with the 100 on the other side is Golden Esports are on the tippity top of the mountain, but let's be fair, they're only halfway there in securing this chicken dinner. Good couple of shots as BK gets the first aid off into the safety of his compound, throws a nade in the direction of Game Lord. He knows that the job is not done. He knows he has yet to really clean up the French side. It's Bravis down by the edge of the rock. They can really do absolutely nothing right now. They're not in the circle. The Familia is dealt with behind them. The only thing they can hope for is a wing of a prayer, a distraction to get into the edge of the circle.
Golden just chilling right now, taking huge advantage of that high ground. They're up to 8 elims already with 4 players alive, and I'd be curious to see how much damage they've received. I don't think any players can really, challenge them with that position up there. So they're just having free reign over the entirety of the lobby at this point. So that next circle has shifted. More of it is on the low ground, like we predicted. A little bit of the high ground still in play. If it does shift to the low ground, what is Golden going to do though? Like, they have a really good position, but it's not like they could really jump off that mountaintop. Maybe they could navigate it, go back into the blue just a little bit, and then press on in. But Golden does need to make second contingency plans right now, in my opinion.
Yes and no. I think they can potentially have a position to push down the hill, but in my eyes, they're committing to the top and they're trying to pick up as many elims as possible. 12 right now. Similar to LMB in the previous game, they're at the point in the game where they don't need to worry about winning the game. They've got enough eliminations where a second, even a third, would be more than satisfactory for this side. Like I said, 12. Looking down at the bottom of the barrel, Rexpect, their compound is out of play, and indeed, they get taken out. LV, could we be looking at the German chicken dinner? Might be the case. They didn't secure the last one, but a second one, it could be coming in.
Yeah, so Golden, you're saying they don't need to worry because they decided to just get the elims. Well, they also don't have to worry about rotating either because next zone is up. It's on the high ground, Imperium.
Yes.
There's like a smidge, a smidge of low ground in that zone. The 100 is going to be hugging that smidge on the low ground right here. But there's still another circle phase left. And with Golden controlling 90% of the circle, it is most likely going to end up on that high ground. We're down to 3 teams. Hidan, of course, last player alive. Not much he could do, but he's got the M24. It's your time to shine. Show us the highlight. Get that highlight clip. Get that nasty knock with that peek. Okay. Barely missing it.
He went for it. He went for it. But this is what I like about Golden Esports. They're not resting on their laurels with this game. They know that the 2 players from the 100 are hugging the side of the cliff.
Marcio has that grenade in hand right now. You see it. Is it going to connect?
Can he lowball it in? I go a little bit too far away. He takes a couple of damage. Hidan is found by Louis. He went for the shots. Unfortunately, Hidan didn't work out. 2 teams left up. Golden Esports. And the
next zone. I think the 100 have some of the next zone again. That circle did kind of shift to the south. Yeah, I mean, it matters if they can survive this, grenade onslaught. They only have 1 member up. Golden has managed to find 1. But oh
no, Marcio knocked himself. Faria knocked himself. Please don't throw this game, Arlovsky and Louis. He's made it down to the bottom of the hill. The revives are going to be laid out. All the while, that time has been given over to the 100 to get the revive off themselves, and they're back up as a duo. Surely they should have looked at the situation, at the fact that 2 players were knocked into kill feed by fall damage, and they should be able to push forward. But they also know that one of the players of Golden Esports is at the top of the mountain, so if they peek a little bit too much to the left, they're going to get blown up from the top of the mountain. This is very tricky for the 100, and they get thrown up. Golden Esports pushing in as Phase 8 Blue Zone starts to get towards the tail end. This is so close. Can the 100 pull it out? It's been a good result, but not quite. Golden Esports pull it out. A chicken dinner, and a deserved one at that.
Golden Esports. That was very... I want to say that was very well played, but the 2 fall damages were completely unnecessary. At first I just thought there was no clear safe way down the hill, and they chanced it, right? And then I saw that 3rd player just kind of, you know, oh yeah, there's like some stairs right here, pretty much. Like there was like a 5-foot fall just right there. Yeah, so I mean, Golden, congrats. Next time, be a little bit more patient, right? This time around, they still secure the chicken dinner. They got the win, and obviously, they did not have the correct patience, otherwise they would have found it. Now, you translate that into future matches where they can also get the chicken dinner, but not as easily. That's when that patience will factor in. So hopefully, you know, that was kind of a learning point, not just in the Miramar map alone, but more so from a standpoint of the team itself. Like, yo, we messed up there. We should be a little bit more patient next time and explore our options and think a little bit faster maybe. But nonetheless, congrats to them. And LMV, really good game again. They finished in the top 3 and the 100 with the 2nd place finish. It's really good to see this 100 team back in action, doing really well, very consistent.
Yeah, good from the 100, because Showdown, as you said, are playing for their sole UK representatives in today's game. So having the good results that they've had is more than positive. I still gotta say though, not only Golden Esports, of course, because they did get 9 points in game 1, but Portugal as a whole, as a region, props to them. Real big props. I can see them overtaking Greece. They're showing bigger strength in these games, and they're showing the evolution. And I think the chicken dinner by Golden Esports in this game too is the biggest indication of how much they've improved, because you can turn around and you can say, oh well, they had the circles, they had this, they had that, and the other. There's one thing getting the circles, but there's another thing controlling the circles. And honestly, the way they had that spread out, the way they had themselves positioned, it was perfectly executed. Genuinely, they might have had more competition around them in a higher level, but that doesn't matter. In this lobby, in this game, they absolutely controlled it beautifully.
Yeah, they set up the split correctly very early on. They had that 2-2 split. You know, like you mentioned, in higher level lobbies, the challenge to hold that 2-2 split might have been greater, but they recognized it and they did the correct strategy and they got the win. So very good to them. I just want to say, I feel like every single day, Imperium, the lower teams, the lower level teams, or the teams behind in points at least, has been continuously catching up and turning things around. So I really am loving to see how teams are, you know, really just getting fueled up to do better each and every day.
2 games down, 2 more to go in today's PMECT action. Don't go away. We're gonna have the highlights coming up, then after match rankings, game 3. Don't go away. See you guys soon. Welcome back to day number 4 of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. When it's E, I nearly think it's like esports, but it's Europe Community Tournament with myself, Imperium, and the wonderful Zute. Just seeing the end of the highlights there with Golden Esports having a wonderfully controlled game with a well executed chicken dinner overall, and once again we're just seeing an evolution across the table with a number of teams getting good result after good result.
Yeah, day 1 was more of a day where teams are feeling each other out. Day number 2, we have the juggernauts established, which still continue to have really good games into day 3 and day 4. But day 3, we saw some changes. We saw some teams starting to come up in the mix, getting some big games, and now day 4, the trend continues. Golden, representing Portugal, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
The region as a whole right now, just not doing too hot in terms of, trying to be top 3, but they're making a comeback, which I love to see.
They are, and La Familia flying the Italian flag, having overall another solid result. More elimination heavy, but you take those. They were in a bit of a fight with Mega Power to begin with, then they moved away from that, and then they had to deal with Eastern Stars kind of for the second time, and they got the squad wipe on the Eastern Stars, and unfortunately they met their matches. They had to try and push in from the edge of the circle. I think it was like on something like phase 5 from that standpoint. Won the 100 as well. I think I not that I underestimated them in these first 2 games, but I don't think I've really had enough of an eye on what they're actually doing, because I think they had a very good game once again, and it was still a decent game 1 as well.
Definitely. I think many teams are starting to not just play better individually as players or even as teams, but they're starting to get the hang of the lobby. It takes a little bit of time to get used to the way a lobby plays. Like, do the teams hold a lot of splits? Do teams here do fast rotations? And heading into day 4, the teams that took a little bit longer to adjust are starting to adjust now, so it's really good to see. And certain teams, though, like, I still feel like have yet to find their stride. They're still a little bit inconsistent. And taking a look at once we do head into the match rankings, there is definitely a team I want to point out in particular, Imperium.
Yeah, go ahead, point it out anyway. Just lead it in. What team do you want to highlight?
Okay, so it would have to be the team of 7UP, right? Really good team. They get huge games, but very inconsistent. Game number 1, they didn't do too well. Game number 2, they didn't do all too hot either. And I can't help but to draw on the fact yesterday at the very last Erangel game, they were so absolutely dominant. So it's like, why the inconsistency? And I know I made fun of you, or not made fun, or poked at you a little bit earlier for that caster's curse, right? Well, now you kind of know how it feels. To be Zute,
I do.
This caster curse. Like, I've developed such a bad rep.
You have, man.
So imagine the feeling that you had, but multiply it by like 10. That's me. And like, the worst part is, right, I get what you're trying to do. You're taking the analytics, you're trying to, break down certain fights in your head very quickly, and you make a deduction, right? You're like, this team does really well on Miramar, actually. I'm gonna make a nice point from that. Or you see a fight and it's like, ooh, this positioning's really good, this team should win, and then it just all gets thrown back at your face. It's a terrible feeling, but
well, yeah, because it's like the stats don't lie, but those are often the stats in the past, and you can't control the present or even to an extent the future. So it's like sometimes not that we all rely too much on the stats, but you draw your conclusion based on the stats, and it blows up in your face. But the highlight with the match rankings of this game, the 2 Spanish teams, Bravos and Respect, big points for them, 23 together. REXPECT had a pretty, was it REXPECT had a decent game one? Yeah, REXPECT had a decent game one with 8 points. Unfortunately, in game one, Bravos got 0, but still, again, Spanish community-wise, nice to see that. Yeah, so absolutely spot on. Can't really argue. We're going to be getting ready to go into game number 3. It is on the map of Sanhok. It's a little bit RNG, but again, a little bit like yesterday. I think the Sanhok games have been very enjoyable to cast and watch.
So Sanhok, it's typically the map that you want to think, you know, you got to stay together, make it 4 late game, and then just push on in. Yesterday's Sanhok game, Big showed the complete opposite. It's not so much always about just being close-knit together. If you do get the zone, I do want to see teams venture out to play a little bit more split, if possible, right? Depends on where the zone ends, but we see it, you know, time and time again. Playing split on Sanhok is actually the way to go when you get the circle, when you got to play defensive. If you hold up together, you just get too much, you know, pressure all around you. So when you play split, you can maybe, you know, press that pressure out a little bit more. And well, we'll have to see exactly where the zone ends on Sanhok. We have not seen a Northwestern finish yet. And I know at the PMGC level, it seems to happen a lot. So I wonder if it's going to happen on this 4th day of the 4th match of Sanhok.
I've been calculating some points in the first 2 games, and what I love is that the teams who've done kind of very well over the first 2 games are all in different communities. So LV from Germany, 35 points in 2 games. The 100 UK, 38 points in 2 games. Golden Esports Portugal, 39 in 2 games. REXPECT Spain, 19 points in 2 games. And La Familia Italy, 32 points in 2 games. It's just nice to see that, right? That kind of competitiveness across how close it can be in these communities.
Speaking about how close it can be in these communities, like, let's draw on the overall scores, right? Coming into today, we saw in the overalls. Give me a second, I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, so we saw in the overalls, France at 203, Romania at 200, Germany at 195, Italy at 177. So match by match, these teams are still keeping it very close and tight-knit to each other.
And what makes it even more amazing, and I've got to give a lot of props to LMV as we're getting into the 3rd game in Sanhok. Romania, France, between Eastern Stars and Game Lord, they haven't been looking too hot. So with the amount of points that LMV has scored, they might just have put Germany on top of the rankings. Of course, still 2 games to go. But again, the spice continues to fly as you get into Sanhok.
Take a look at the split drops on Sanhok.
Amazing.
I've seen splits before, but not to this degree. Like, it looks like
okay.
Yeah, very different. Even at the PMGC level, we don't see splits of this nature. We do have 16 teams in here, right, Imperium? Like, this is 16 teams. It almost looks like a 20-team lobby, like, just
amazing
with how much of the map is filled. And the first circle does pop on up. It will be towards kind of more of the southwestern side. There is the potential still that we might get that first circle shift, hard shift up to the northwest. And so we might see a potential ending on that island. But this circle, Imperium, definitely a tough one, because navigating from the east island to the west is usually spells death for a lot of teams.
Yeah, for sure. The teams are going to be tested more than ever in Sanhok into today's game, I feel. It's where the kind of uncompetitiveness of this map can really hurt its reputation with this kind of circle. But there's a way to play around it. So, for example, the 100, looting Painan, that's great. But in my eyes, they need to get a bit of an early spread across the southern hill of Painan, and maybe have one a little bit more up north towards the bridge, so you're able to grab that information. LV on the trifecta, already a great place to be in this kind of circle. I worry they might not be able to grab as much loot as they might need to. So I'd like to maybe see them be a bit more proactive fighting wise on the mainland side. So again, it's vicarious, it's hard to deal with, but there is a way to play these kind of circles.
You were talking about the team at Painan. Another thing that I've noticed over the years is that the team that drops Painan, sometimes they actually just stay in Painan. And what that kind of does is that hillside, right next to Painan. No teams can really get to that position unless if they go through Painan itself.
The south or north of Painan?
The southwest.
Okay.
Yeah, that southwest hill. So I've noticed an evolution in terms of, you know, the Painan team's meta is that they stay in Painan and they create that buffer zone. And so no teams can really press through that area, which kind of presses all the teams away from the location next to them so that they don't even have to occupy that location to begin with. Right? But if you leave Painan open, it's like the gate, right? It's like a huge gate to that southwestern island. And if you leave that gate open, you pretty much kind of invite teams to potentially, you know, mess with you in further circles. So just keep the gate shut, and when the time comes, you can leave that position and go to the rest of the map. And now, with the rest of the map, Game Lord already getting into fight with Glor, and Glor losing a member. Glor just really not having a good day today or any of the previous days, to be honest.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't think Game Lord will look to continue that fight, to be fair. I think they're recognizing that an early rotation, they normally drop. They had that kind of split drop around the northeastern side of the mainland by that bridge, so you take advantage of that, get an early rotation. The likes of Glor aren't really fully ready to take that fight. Maybe 7-Up as well. It's a good, quick rotation from Game Lord. They do get caught out by 7-Up as it happens. George picking up a quick kill. Going back to your point on Painan, I honestly never really thought about that, and I think that's part of it, at least what makes you an absolutely fantastic analyst, is that you kind of see a little bit more of an in-depth observation with that, and it's something that I'm going to think about in the future. I still hold my ground on not being a fan of a team holding on to Painan too much, but maybe that comes from a more kind of lower skill tier observation and seeing teams not really getting that timing on point. So I'd prefer to see them leave it early. But again, I can't discredit what you say. For 7-Up, though, they're not going to discredit the fact that they got a kill on Game Lord. They've pushed them away. They've created that space.
Team 100 extremely close to Bravis right here. We saw Super Mikhail scoping in on a player. Are they aware Bravis is next to them, though? There's two members of Bravis.
They have to be.
I don't think they kind of just took the car and left. I think what happened was they reached that compound, noticed it was looted, and the Bravis team was thinking they would continue to loot, so they played very quiet. But then they didn't do anything, and then the 100 just kind of felt something was off, and they just rotated on back. Kind of a missed opportunity on Bravis' side.
I was just going to ask that. Do you think that was a missed opportunity, or do you think that was good trigger discipline?
It was... So, good trigger discipline if this was a lower tier skill.
Okay.
Because a team like 100, if they weren't as aware, they might have just been like, oh, this is looking a little bit sketchy. Let's still clear out all the buildings. Let's see if there's loot in these buildings. And then the two Bravis players that was in there waiting to spring the trap, right, would easily have got into eliminations. And you saw the Overwatch player, the Super Mikhail, he scoped in on them, but didn't shoot. Because they were probably hoping the 100 was going to go into the next building and fall into the trap. So it did not work out. Missed opportunity. And I think it's a learning point for Bravis. It's like at these higher levels against better teams, they are not as, unaware of certain situations. And we have to be maybe a little bit more proactive.
Okay. Fair point. I definitely see that for sure. Blue Zone starting to close in on this phase one, and we've seen it cluster teams close to each other. I think the members of Lemnis, Skate, and uncanny, if I'm not mistaken. On the eastern edge, you have the likes of 7-Up with Game Lord and Greek Army on the kind of very south edge of that northwest island, trying to gain a little bit of a control. And gold, it's actually Golden Esports, my apologies, going up against the members of Lemnis Gate.
That is a fight far away from the zone, but then again, given their starting location on the Sandhawk map, maybe they realize we don't really have a good chance of just going center, so let's take the fights that we can, the isolated 4v4s. Golden right now looks like they're backing off on that fight on the eastern side, but 7-Up walked into a very scrappy fight with Game Lords, I believe.
Yeah, Game Lord
on that northwestern island. I see Game Lord has lost another player. One of them knocked, so 7-Up does look like they're getting the better of that fight. And if you take a look at the 100 back in Painan, they're sitting in Painan still. They're not moving away from it. And we were talking a little bit more about it earlier, but one team that drops Painan that I watch all the time is the Nova team, the PMGC, the back-to-back PMGC winners. And when I watch them in PEO, which is the China tournaments that they play in all year round, they do the same thing. In some circles, they will just have Painan for themselves, and they will just sit there and stay there until maybe even 2 or 3 circles later. Then they make their move and they leave the Painan city.
Seven Up. It wasn't really that they walked into Game Lord. To be fair, Game Lord walked into them earlier on and they got punished, losing one player, and they've lost a second player. They haven't really been able to regain their composure so far. And like I said, with that threat of the top spot being challenged by the likes of Germany as a community, by the likes of Romania as a community, even Italy, the day that they've had, it's up to Game Lord to continue to push on forward. It was day one where we saw them have a shaky start and they came out swinging on the last 2 games. It doesn't look like it's going to be the same as they move back towards the blue, to be fair, which I low-key don't disagree with, being perfectly honest, because I think 7-Up has their number. Tell you what I do notice though, YMCA, this is a kind of rotation that I don't fully agree with, but I still have to highlight it because I love a rotation.
Rotations are all fun and games until you get shot at and you're just blown out of the water. All right, like, but for us casters, it's still fun and games when that happens.
Oh yeah,
we get to laugh at it and enjoy it at the expense of the players with the failed rotation.
I still remember when you first started kind of commentating as a PMCO. It took you a little bit of time to kind of come to the dark side as a commentator, right? Yeah. Because as a former player, you sympathize a bit more, but now you're fully formed. Now you're fully converted to the sadistic side of a commentator.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yep. And I think I have definitely enjoyed commentating more when I can kind of just take joy at the team's expense. But for sure, when I started commentating, my mindset was just like, oh no, I feel so bad for these players, because I know how it feels to have a huge blunder like that. And even though I enjoy it a little bit more sadistic, as far as the players go, you know, my heart still goes out to them, you know, just grinding it out. And talking about grinding it out, Red Moon showing signs of life now. Red Moon's had a very rough start to the day, but they get 2 quick knocks onto the Eastern Stars. I think Eastern Stars were trying to see if this compound was taken, and definitely not having the better of that, because 2 of their members that did get close to compound instantly knocked. So maybe a really good trap set up by the Red Moon team.
Also, honestly, even though it's easy with hindsight, I think that was a poor rotation path by Eastern Stars, because they went more for that kind of like southeastern mainland coastal line rotation, or at least of this phase 1. I think that was always going to be a much higher chance of another team being in that area, dropping there or not. And they paid the prices. They lose to just Baziloso. I don't know what the second part of that name means. I must ask him. But Bazi Kapahala, the warlord, left standing. Red Moon, I love the flank by Versace. It's going to leave in a 1v1, but I think that's a great level of suppression.
Yeah, getting that additional angle just kind of puts more pressure onto Eastern Stars. It forces them to react and try and do something. And Bazzi, he realizes like his teammate, as much as he wants to support him with the angles Red Moon's getting, he has to take a challenge straight up. And Versace is also very aware that Bazzi might adjust for his positioning. Versace in a 1v1. He does not have to take this by himself though. And wow, okay, the angles of support just so happen to be there. When they got the second or the third knock onto the Eastern, onto Kapahala, Versace could have just played that slower, waited for his team to support him. But luckily for him, Ed, with that angle from downtown, does get the trade. So they will be able to get the reset onto Versace. Red Moon should be able to keep up 4. And the next circle has shifted on up. And this is a doozy of a circle, Imperia.
Yeah, this is where I start to sympathize with the teams a lot more, right? It hasn't gone down confidently towards that southwest island. If anything, it's shifted to the point where you have a little bit more of that mainland in play, the boot camp hill and the coastline of that mainland outside of boot camp. LMV do have the trifecta compound under control once again. 7-Up pushing, swimming in the water where Greek army have the potential of picking up a couple of free kills, but they don't take the shots realistically. They look to move into the edge of the circle. I kind of like the fact that they're not tunnel visioned, but still, if you have an opportunity for a kill, take it.
Maybe they might be worried just getting shot at from a different angle across the waters, right? Like it happens. It does happen quite a lot on Sandhawk in that area. So right now we have, Lemniscate coming in. The last player of Lemniscate actually down to 1 HP, and all he's got are bandages, so he realizes time is short. So he's just trying to look for that confirmed Elim, but he knows if he peeks out too much, the rest of the Red Moon team will have the cover ready. The smoke is out. Freezy trying to do the best he can before his time runs out. The blue zone slowly ticking away at him. And Red Moon, though, take the shots, man. There we go. All right. That took a while, but they got it in. YMCA trying to breach into the circle. Rex Esports not having any of that, just shutting down that player from YMCA.
Yeah, YMCA initially took a couple of shots towards Greek Army where you highlighted that they might be aware of being shot from another team, and that was the case. But instead of committing across the road, they tried to commit through ruins, and honestly, I like it. I'm not even a fan of the fact that Rexpect are going through ruins. I hate when you go through ruins. I get it if it's on the edge of the circle. It's a little bit more attainable, but I still think it's a massive kind of risk, and there's a lot of RNG because with how ruins plays is that there's a lot of little dips, a lot of little rocks, a lot of little kind of swamp areas where you're able to hide, snake, and then come out and spring a surprise on the team. So being around that area for both sides is not good in my opinion.
Yeah, trying to clear ruins is tough because you have wide gaps of open area and then you have sparse cover. It makes it really difficult to kind of figure out where teams might be. Whereas the rest of the map, at least it's like more closer lit. You have like small hills to small hills. You got the grass. You got multiple rocks and trees for cover. A little bit easier to work in as a group. But ruins it is. YMCA is committed. Rex is also committed to defending this and holding it down. And next circle does shift on up. Eastern main island, southwestern island, and then of course the river that cuts through the middle and the bridges. This is going to be the battle of two fronts. We're going to see a lot of teams on the east side get into fights and lose their lives, similar onto the western side.
Oh man, at least the northwest island is out of play. If that in any way helps, I doubt it does realistically, but I have to point it out. Nacho with a knock onto one of the YMCA players. You can see the mini feed. A second knock comes through, so it's just Lorexi as the last player standing for the side of YMCA. It's really a matter of just trying to hold on and see what he can do. As Golden Esports, they've looked good so far in the first two games, but so the 100 Daddy, the IGL of the side. Reznov around there. Lovely nade being thrown out by Lewis. Reznov picks up a knock into Marcio. Absolutely lovely from the side of the 100. Louis gets dropped to his knees as well. A little bit of a third party for Mega Power. That's giving the advantage over to the side of the 100 as Golden Esports left with just 2 alive, Fari and Chief. And another nade goes up against the wall. Sorry to say, Golden Esports, but you're being picked off one by one.
Golden Esports in the middle of a sandwich right now. They're definitely not liking it. Feeling the pressure from Mega Power and the 100. And Mega Power, a team that is very strong when it comes to their gun skill and their aim. Mega Power not even deciding to press this. They have a nice control split on the north, and they know they have the angles and sight lines to pick up the kills. So they're just playing it patient. And with the circle closing, that's a very good idea because teams could still be rotating in from behind. So very good composure for them to not get too greedy. We're back onto the western. Oh, we were on the western side of things for a little bit. The multiple fronts, multiple fights going all around the map. Golden down to 2 now, trying to get that revive. They will reset to 2, but not much they can do from here.
Yeah, you can see in the kill feed 7-up. I believe that is the end of Glore. LMV got involved as well. Greek army on that western side, trying to find the players. A 7-up Starkey goes into the shack and is like, nah, I'm not getting involved. You're on your own. As Greek army turned their attention towards the members of Respect.
Back onto Golden. The duo just constantly getting knocked, constantly getting revived, trying to do what they can. And the next circle has shifted. We are going to the eastern side. You saw right there on the map. It does favor V100, so they will get a nice priority or a very strong position too at those compounds. So the western side it is. The western side's where all the action is going to be as these teams try and rotate in. And well, Golden just getting grenades, bullets.
I'm surprised they're still alive.
Yes, by Mega Power and V100. It's just, oh geez, man, these two players.
Credit where it's due for the resilience, but it's just like, just
they're like punching
down
right
already.
Now.
Yeah, they are like punching
they're literally
bags.
punching bags right now, just getting punched out by 2 different teams. Back onto the eastern side.
And this is what I was talking about with Respect and coming out of ruins. Like, it was only going to get them so far in the game. Greek army being somewhat proactive, and they come in to get a couple of knocks. Mega Power, they meet their makers in the former Game Lord with Robs. I think the last player, though. No, not quite. He's knocked. There's still another one in the blue. Mega Baby, Logist. Last player, Rite. Mega Power still going strong. Golden Esports, you're still alive? What
he just punched his teammate.
Like, I don't say it in a bad way. I say this is a good way, but it's like they're the cockroaches of PUBG Mobile right now. They just won't go down. Right? They're staying alive. You could have a nuke fly down on this Sanhok map, and they'd still probably be alive.
I love how every time we put the camera on them, at least one of them is knocked. Right? It's just there's always at least one player knocked. I mean, I will credit them though.
Yeah,
they
of course.
do have really good discipline in the fact that not both of them are peeking out too hard and just getting straight eliminated. They're taking turns, one's playing a bit more aggressive, one's playing a bit more of an anchor. So they managed to survive for a really long time. There's only 8 teams alive, and they're still in the game. 7 teams left alive now, and I think they're still up and just trying to stay alive and scrap it out. The next zone has shifted. It goes away from the compound. We're going to go towards the open area of the map. The bridge is in play. The underside of the bridge is in play. And I think La Familia is going to have a really good time with that. The 100 trying to breach on out of their compounds. And they do have vehicles for rotation. This is a perfect time to have vehicles because you do not be wanting to run across that in the open on foot.
And when we highlight the use of vehicles, that's a perfect situation to pull it off indeed. Lovely spray by Daddy to get the knock on the Versace. And I really love the fact that the 100 sent one player there first, followed by the rest of the team, right? It's just that little bit of an anchor point. La Familia down in the bottom of the bridge. One of their players gets knocked, followed by a second. Wasted is on his own. Should be able to pull off the revive onto Clay. But this is looking like the 100 chicken dinner, and it would be a massively deserved one at that, based off the fact of how they performed in the first 2 games. UK, 3 games in a row, looking good.
They did have 4 players, and I thought they still had 4, but they're actually down to 2. So that rotation was a good one, but it did cost them a little bit. And La Familia, as soon as he takes out one player, gets third party by the other. Mega Power taking really good advantage of that timing. And now it's a 3v2 situation, but 6
Oh,
alive. There is one
no.
player somewhere in the blue zone medding off, and now it's a 1v3.
Shots by Daddy is gonna have to clutch it up. Unfortunately, only rocking a vehicle to his name. Needs to try and blow that vehicle up though, if he can. Nades aplenty by Mega Power. They do have to push across the road. Technically, they don't need to for the time being. They do have one on the other side down by the lower bridge, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's Logist. Indeed, there is one player from Red Moon, Red X, healing in the blue. Just a couple of first aids he has to his name. So he tries to secure a top 3, possibly a top 2. I like how Daddy's sticking to his composure, and I do appreciate the fact that Mega Power aren't pushing it. They want to see where this next circle shifts.
Yeah, Mega Power is assuming it's a 3v2, right? With the 100 having a second member up and definitely playing a bit more careful on Sandhawk in a 3v2 situation. As soon as this Red Moon player goes down, though... Oh,
wow.
My second place finish for Red Moon.
He got himself second place. The timing, absolutely perfect for the last player, Red X of Red Moon. I feel bad for Daddy, of course, because you just can't control that. But in the end, Red Moon gets second, and Mega Power secure themselves a chicken dinner.
Mega Power with a beautiful nade securing that point. Mega Power playing that extremely well. We saw the discipline they had earlier, right? They could have played a bit more greedy, could have played a bit more aggressive onto Golden, but they just held their territory control. They held their split, and eventually that control led to a chicken dinner. Very nicely played by Mega Power, and the 100 showing consistency as well. Very well done by them. It could have been a completely different story if that short car rotation worked out, but they lost 2 of their members, and you know, it just that just happens, right? Maybe next time around, they keep 2 of those members and they have a 4-man team and they get the chicken. But it was the correct play. It was well done. I love the setup where they kind of hopscotched over by first sending one player. That player was set up, he can cover, and then he covered his 3 teammates going in.
And that's something that, you know, as commentators, it's sometimes so easy to say, oh, well, this was wasn't the right thing to do because it didn't work out, and this was the right thing to do because it did work out. Whereas, and at least I found myself doing that a little bit too much, whereas I've needed to maybe take a step back and recognize that, hey, just because something doesn't work out doesn't mean it wasn't the right move. And I think that's a really good example of that. Like you said, it was the right move that they pulled off. It was just in that moment, in that situation, it just didn't work out, but they pulled it off as much as they could. And still, honestly, another top 3 finish from the 100. You can't argue the break they had as did them wonders.
Yeah. And I also want to give credit to Red Moon, right? A team that we haven't seen utilize the med strat at all. And Red Moon, a team that's been looking kind of shaky, right? So
they were.
Yeah, they adapted to it on Sandhawk of all maps. And they had that early fight with Eastern Stars, which they played out very well. They got the full wipe on Eastern Stars. And actually, that makes a lot of sense now why they had the med strat. They took out the Eastern Stars, and we know the Eastern Stars on the very first day of Sandhawk, they stack up on a lot of meds. So I think they got majority of their meds from the Eastern Stars, so very good for them.
And it was an okay result from La Familia as well. So again, when we were talking about the overall leaderboards and the communities rising up, Romania, France, you gotta start sweating because both Germany and Italy and even Spain, they're looking for that top spot. Even the UK as well. The highlights are ready. We're gonna go for a break. We still have one more game to go in day 4 of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. Don't go away. We will see you all very soon. And we are back 3 games into the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament, day number 4. We have one more game to go. Mega Power, they won the 3rd game, but it's been a rise of the Italian community off the back of this game 3. Zute, Red Moon, La Familia, they look good.
Red Moon, La Familia, 21 and 17 points respectively in that last match. Really good job out of those 2 teams representing Italy.
Yeah.
And I just want to, once again, I need to highlight the overalls coming into today, right?
Yeah.
Because the overalls coming into today, Italy was in 4th place at 177 overall. And with a performance like that out of both of Red Moon and La Familia kind of joining forces together, that really shoots them up closer. And now the top 4 overall is literally just 2, like at most maybe 10, 15 points all within one another from 1st to maybe 4th.
I'm making a bit of a bold prediction depending on how this final game goes, but if the Italian community, in terms of either one team or even both teams, get a good 20 to 30 points together, I think you're going to see a much stronger gap with Italy being on top, because today alone in the first 3 games they've scored around 70 points. And you know, that would put them on roughly around 240. And if you look at Game Lord, the sole French representatives in today's games, they've had 6 points in game 1, 8 points in game 2, and 8 points in game 3. It's not bad, but it's by no means as massive as, let's say, the Italian community has had. And when you look at Eastern Stars, again, the sole Romanian representative, 4 points in game 1, 5 points in game 2, and 0 points in game 3. So really, outside of Germany, because LMV had very good 2 games in a row, this is the day of the Italians, man. This is the day of the Italians.
Yeah, you did say ciao at some point, right? When they
I did
when they got the very first chicken today too. Yeah, they got their first chicken.
Yeah.
Right, for the entirety of the tournament. Like, okay, so
yeah, getting
not just the chicken, but keeping it going, and not just one team out of the French, or not French, the Italian community. Both teams out of the Italian community stepping up today and showing, you know, what they got. And an even bolder prediction here. I think the fact that both teams are doing really well 4 days in, I feel like they're improving. I feel like they're adjusting. I think at the end of the tournament, like just with the pacing that the Italians are doing right now, they're looking really good to, you know, end the overall tournament after all the games are played at 1st overall. Because, you know, like we see a team like Eastern Stars, right? They come out very strong.
Are you flip-flopping? You did earlier in the week, you said Romania would win. Are you flip-flopping, Zute?
I mean, I'm just calling it as it is with, you know, the way things are breaking out, right? Like Eastern Stars, I thought they would be consistent all days, all throughout the tournament, because we saw how strong they were. But now today, it's like inconsistency strikes. And I'm always the type to forward the upward trend, right? Like just, you know, from an analytical standpoint, the upward trend is definitely a bit stronger and longer lasting as the days continue on.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with that, and I fully agree. To give a lot of credit and focus to the 100 and UK community, man, they've had 52 points in the 3 games today. That's roughly 18, roughly 18 points per game, give or take. So really good day coming out from the 100, especially when you look at where they were in the overall standings coming into today's games. 8th down at the bottom. So it allows them to kind of climb up. I know Czech Republic 7 up haven't really had the best of days. Spain have had an okay day. Mega Power, the Nordic countries, yeah, they got the chicken dinner in this game 3, but that was their first real positive result of the day. One more good game from the 100, not to put too much pressure, but another top 3, maybe even a chicken dinner. We could see the UK side and the UK community break into the top 4, top 3. Just kind of putting that out there. It's a good rise.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, the 100 team, definitely a team that I'm really starting to like. Like, we saw glimpses of them in previous days, but then, of course, with the rise of Eastern Stars, with the rise of Big, it got completely overshadowed. But with Eastern Stars kind of taking a step back today, and Big not being in the lobby, and a few of the other top teams not really just completely showing out, we're seeing more signs of life, more sparks from the 100, and with only one game left. I would really love to see the 100 step it up here, even, and get a chicken even.
Yeah, exactly. I would definitely enjoy seeing a chicken dinner. Sorry about that. I have a phone call.
Good.
Yeah, no caller ID, so I don't know what it is. Don't know. Not gonna answer. But in a wrangle, trying to kind of have a little bit of a look. Eastern Stars have looked good in a wrangle. They've gotten a good chicken dinner, 17-pointer, and an 18-pointer in 3 of the 4 in wrangle games they've played. So I think kind of Eastern Stars are a good bet. But again, they're not having a good day, and we're into our final game.
Final game of the day. Back on Erangel, we got the playing path from the southeast to the western side. This one a little bit skewed more towards the south, but not too difficult, mainly because if you're dropping for cars going up to the north, you got a lot of spread options. I don't think we'll see too many teams trying to go for the same drop area for the vehicles to rotate on up. And Mega Power, once again, dropping in Novo and not Pachinki. So I think they just switched up the strategy completely. For whatever reason, they feel like Pachinki not the most optimal spot. And that's funny to say because Pachinki's at the center of the game. Statistically, it's got the best rotations. But on the same note, the other day I mentioned a lot of top teams from across the world don't even drop center, and Pachinki might be a little bit more overrated than we think. Bravis and Lemniscate with the rematch in the farm area.
I don't know what it is about these two teams. They're like magnets to each other. Bravis representing the Spanish community, Lemniscate representing the Greek community. To be fair, Lemniscate really need this squad up and really need a good result. Being perfectly honest, because it's been a bit of a slippery slope of a day for the Greek community across the board. So I'd love to see them win it, as much as I recognize that Bravis have improved, and also the Spanish side could do with an overall good end to the day. But so far, nobody's been knocked.
These two teams definitely don't like each other, because we saw them, drop on Erangel in the first game and fight each other, but it was in a different section of farm. Now it's like, it's still farm, don't get me wrong, but it's quite literally, oh, we see these guys dropping here? Okay, everyone follow them. We're going to challenge them. Right? That's exactly what's going on here. So the fight is starting to break out. One grenade almost locks Louis. Louis definitely isolated from his team, and nobody able to really support him right there. He put himself in a terrible position, and I think he should have readjusted a little bit earlier. But Bravis now down to 3. It might be looking like Lemniscate might win this fight again on Erangel.
Yeah, it's a unfortunately common trait in which players do. It wasn't quite a wall, but it's like they hook themselves to either a wall or a side of a shack, and it's like, yeah, I'm safe here. No, that kind of puts you at risk of a nade way more than you think. It's kind of what happened to Louis. But I do appreciate Lemniscate. They initially split dropped, and you did see 2 of their players come in with a vehicle very quickly.
So Bravis made the same mistake game number 1. They lost a man early on because they were isolated, no angles of support. Same thing happens game number 4. So hopefully they see that as the key mistake. There's a lot of mistakes going on here, but that's definitely one of the key ones. Not knowing how to position yourselves to be able to be in the support sightlines of your teammates.
Yep.
Lemniscate, on the other hand, doing a really good job isolating players one by one, using that car as like a battering ram to take down the pieces of Bravis. just dismantling them at this part. And I think they're now looking for
yeah.
the kill as they're sending all 4 players across to the Bravos side. I like this rotation. They're going around because they don't want to drive
all 4
directly.
in one vehicle, though? All 4 in one vehicle? That's a bit of a bold move, Cotton. I get it, but that's a bit of a bold move.
I think they only have 1 vehicle, right? But I love how they rotated around the side and they didn't drive straight into Bravos. But Bravos already knocked one on the rotation if you didn't catch it earlier, and now they got his second knock. Now it's a 2v2 with the drop shot that almost comes through. And it's a 1v1. Does it come down to 1v1? I believe so.
He only has a shotgun. He only has a shotgun. Is he going to make it blast? He is going to make it blast. Bravos come out on top and let them skate. They get absolutely blown to smithereens.
That was a 2v4. Bravos
Um,
clutching up the 2v4. The first knock out of the car, I get it. Why you're so questionable about all 4 in a car, right? That's just more chance of someone getting hit, and it did happen. But even in the 3v2, Lemniscate definitely messed that up.
Why did one push in the warehouse on his own?
Yes, exactly. That was the key mistake there. But Rex in a 1v2 as well, and not getting the better of that. 7up picking up a quick elim right there.
Man, last game of the day, a couple of sloppy mistakes, to be fair, to kick off this final game. RECSPECT shouldn't be losing players like that. I know maybe they're not used to 7up being super duper close like that. But yeah, a little bit weird. Bravos, I think, end up going, no, they're not quite down. They do lose a 3rd player at the hands of YMCA, who maybe recognize that, and Spyro gets in the vehicle and is going to look to dip off away from this side of YMCA. But cheeky kill being stolen to an extent by YMCA as they moved out of the Milta region for the time being. 6.5 minutes in. Phase 1 starting to close in. We're already down to 56 players.
Yeah, the last match of the day, I feel like a lot of teams do play a little bit more aggressive, whether that be fatigue and they just want to, get a move on with things, or it might be, they're just pretty warmed up and they're ready to take some fights. But unfortunately for Bravos, great 2v4. But like any lobby with a very good, competitive level, you will get third-partied if any fights take too long. And YMCA recognized those 2 teams fighting, and they had a good idea of where that fight might be taking place, and they pick up a kill or an elim for themselves. So the first circle is on the western side of the map. We see a lot of teams making their rotations, playing their splits. Red Moon with a very nice split. Game Lord right now just taking their time looting up Yasnaya. A lot of loot to be had here. And with the rotation so far away, may as well, fill up on level 2 armor, maybe even pick up some level 3 armor, get some extra utility. Always a good move to go, especially on air and go. No huge rush for the first circle rotation.
Yeah, I kind of want to correct what I said about RECSPECT earlier on. I have to kind of say, hey, I get it why you lost a player, because if I'm not mistaken, 7up have full on changed your drop spot, and normally RECSPECT in every game so far they've had not only Roshawk but kind of schooling and around schooling apartments to themselves. In the first game of the day, 7up didn't move away from Yasnaya. They kind of looted away, but it wasn't so heavily towards Roshawk. This game, it was a proper change in compound drop on schooling apartments directly. So I don't really hold that against RECSPECT losing a player early on like that, because it's not really the first thing you expect to see on a team full on changing their drop spot.
Yeah, I agree. It might be even an adjustment that they're targeting that one singular player. That could be a thing.
Fair.
But of course, that one player getting isolated out, it wasn't like they were doing a big split that they didn't have been doing. That was pretty safe. So first time happening around. Can't blame them for that. YMCA right now rotating through the rest of the map, looking to scout out this compound. This compound is a very strong one, and because it's a strong one, usually always a team there, so they're doing their due diligence. LMV on the other side taking out some car wheels. always being proactive. That's always a good thing to do if you got nothing else to shoot at. You know, destroy some of the wheels, hurt some of the enemies' capabilities in terms of rotations.
Slow them down, right? The more you can slow down a team around you, whether it's through tires or whether it's through general suppressing shots, the better chance or the higher chance you have to control and manipulate the traffic around you and the area of the map that you control. And as we get into the later circles, you're able to reposition quicker, and then you're able to possibly pick up an elimination here or there. So indeed, yeah, good stuff coming out from LMV. And I do appreciate the little bit of a scout movement from YMCA. I know it's so simple, but you'd be surprised how many teams forget that. Just stop along the way, do some scouting, then continue on forward. Because so many teams get caught out when they don't.
The blind rotations are never good, right? And we have Mega Power here. I don't think they know Spyro is here, but the way they're approaching this, it's almost like they kind of have a feeling there is a player here. Well, now Spyro forced to make sounds. They definitely know there is a player here. Spyro in a 1v2 trying to hold the stairs. 2v1 push back and forth, trying to bait out some shots. I love these jiggle peeks out of Mega Power.
Comes in, does get one, but Rite goes in on his own. Nearly pulled out the 2-piece. I appreciate the jiggle peeks, but it was a push 1-by-1. That was nearly punished.
It was a 1-by-1 push followed up closely behind one another. I would rather prefer that than a 2-man push where you're next to each other. Because stray bullets will easily... Yeah, no, for sure. If you push up together side by side, right? When you hip fire with your gun, some bullets will miss and go to the left or right of the target you're aiming at. And if there's another target right there, you know, they would definitely get taken down. The kill, I forgot what the term was, but the time to kill, the TTK, that's the official term in this game, is very low, meaning you can easily knock one player and the other within milliseconds.
Yeah.
So that spread out one push and then push after another, the timing of it was perfectly fine.
Okay.
If it was like a further second apart, then yes, a bit more on the side of, yeah, that's a mistake.
Okay. So again, just always learning, commentating with you. It's part of why I love it, man. It's part of why I love it. Phase 2 pops up. Eastern Stars being a little bit tickled by Game Lord. You also see Uncanny not really having the best of days comparative to yesterday. Of course, we're seeing a lot more teams kind of overall, I feel, continue to step up to the plate in today's games, especially the likes of the Italians in the UK side of the 100, pull out some absolutely massive performances. But indeed, Uncanny taking some shots towards YMCA. It's a good spot, both hovering around the kind of north and south of the river, gives them a lot of variabilities depending on where phase 3 goes.
And I think the second circle did just shift on out, but we see Parik here with the M24. Love seeing more and more players use the bolt action. Not only is it very entertaining, but they're starting to incorporate it into high-level competitive play. I know early on in the scene, a bolt action simply, yeah, I could take shots at people, but I can't really do anything off it because it's so long distance. But we see some teams employ the bolt action really well. Glor holding a nice split, taking shots at multiple teams. One team rotating in here. Golden on the other side of the map in a very precarious situation as Louis, I think he lost the car and he's asking for a quick rescue. Chief comes in with that rescue, but they are kind of found as bullets rain on in, but I think they will be okay and they'll be able to readjust with their 3 remaining players.
The side of Greek Army did commit to the South George crates. I'm not exactly sure how this phase 2 has shifted overall, but I initially am not a fan of that. We'll have to wait and see. I'm subject to change on my opinion, but I think with how other teams are wrapped around them, I think it's just a sticky place to be so early in the circle. Yeah, LMV as well. I know LMV are in a little bit of a safer position to disengage because they're more towards the South George area, but I really don't like that commitment of crates from Greek Army.
Definitely not. And also when you commit to crates, you're giving a signal to the teams camping the bridges like, hey, we're here and we're looking to cross a bridge. So if you want to stay there and camp us,
Yeah.
we'll be right here. So yeah, it's not a good. It's really not a good spot at all, in my opinion. I gotta agree with you, Game Lord. Getting a Elim onto the side of the 100. I think the 100 was trying to do some scouting. One of their players got caught out. Game Lord being very proactive. Notice how they're not just all sitting at the compound, but they're playing split and they're
Yeah.
moving around the compound with their vehicles to scout out some more information and create some more buffer zones, so to say. But this is pretty much the northern side of the circle. Circle will be shifting soon. LMV and Glor taking the crates. LMV, like you said, in a better position because they are more easily able to rotate out of this. Whereas Glor, well, I mean, they're now stuck between two different teams.
I think where Game Lord have themselves on that north of the river, best spot, best compound, especially with the way they have themselves spread out. Because you have that compound as an anchor point, but the hills around, it's quite hard to breach.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've already been proactive enough to get a kill onto the 100 just makes it so much easier. So fair play to the Game Lord on recognizing that part of the map to control. Waiting for LMV to make a move. I think this phase 3 shift is going to be quite important. YMCA in the cube compound to the north of the river. Red Moon on Everest. Lovely spread. I would argue maybe a little bit too centralized, just a little bit, but you do have Ed on the very eastern edge of it.
Red Moon, that spread on Mount Everest. It could be a little bit further apart, like you said, but at least it's there. And I don't think, given the zone, any teams are really going to try and press up on Mount
That's
Everest.
true.
So they don't have to be super spread out to maintain spacing and control. And that hard shift is a huge one to the south. The circle, the white line of the circle is almost quite literally touching the blue zone of that south side. So Mega Power getting a very nice shift. So many teams have to readjust for this huge shift, and you see 100 making a wide rotation. Game Lord on the north side also doing the same, and it's a game of who will make the faster rotation to take the best spot in that circle, because with a hard shift like that, you can always maybe expect a few zones or a few pockets of the area open that no team is occupying.
Headshot Hills, baby. It's the name of the game in this phase 3. A tricky area to hold on to. Eastern Stars lost Kapahala. They're down to 3. 7-Up pushing in onto the members of YMCA and towards their ruins direction, and they're not wasting any time at all. Just Ketu and King D are left standing for the Nordic side. They be cooked up by Ketu, looking for Starkey. Starkey wants to have none of it. Hovering through, it's a little bit overcooked to the point where he takes damage. F in the chat, boys. F in the chat as Ketu has to try and heal up. His teammate is there to cook up an aid himself. Don't let that happen to him. Starkey moves down the side of the building. Where's the rest of 7-Up? Surely you have an idea based on that nade. You gotta push it.
Yeah. They're holding a split. They're maintaining their control right now. It's the beginning of a circle rotation. So similar to on Sandhawk, they don't want to get too greedy and go for the finish because there's multiple teams in the wings that could still be rotating. And Starkey, he's just readjusting, right? He's readjusting. He's falling back. He knows he's isolated. He does get knocked, but he readjusted fast enough to be able to get revived. So I think 7-Up, all in all, played that very well.
I just think of the third party, right? Because this is a good area of the map to hold down. So you're gonna have a number of teams there. Uncanny has pushed forward. Now, luckily for 7-Up, Game Lord are kind of distracting them as Victor opens the door, gets a knock into Scottzilla. Absolutely fantastic IGM, by the way, Scottzilla. Love it. Hidatori holding on to the side of the wall. Joker's in the back line. The revive is coming through, but that revive leaves time for Game Lord to push on through. Stay to the wall, but don't rely on it, Narvalo. There you go. Lovely sprays, pre-firing. First aid being pulled off, but that's what I talked about. The side of the wall can be there, but you can't stay there.
Yeah, great grenade. Great answer back by Uncanny. Game Lord forced to kind of readjust this now. I love how Game Lord just used one player to push up, though, and everyone else holding back, providing the pressure fire.
Yes.
That's a newer meta strategy I'm starting to see more and more teams employ. And game theory wise, it makes a lot of sense. You push close up with 3 players, the utility of the 3 players
Especially
kind of
against
get
the wall.
limited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
So 1 grenade took down 1 player. If he had a teammate right next to him, instantly that's 2 players down. Now Uncanny really getting peppered up by multiple teams, and I think that now that they're down to 2, they're falling back to try and get that full
Oh,
reset. And Game
no.
Lord just ripping them apart. This is why you don't necessarily need 3 players up close on the push. You
Yeah.
just need that suppressive fire, and the 1 player up close can try and find the openings, or at least put pressure to force mistakes for your teammates in the back to get the knocks.
And the next circle has popped up. 7-Up has still not gotten rid of YMCA. The circle shifts up north. That's going to be more of an area of focus. That's what I'm talking about. Hidakiri tries to find one, indeed gets a knock, but not able to confirm the kill. Potential third party pushes across, gets the second knock, jumps through the wall. Let's go, Hidakiri! Gets
Oh.
the third! Is this going to be a true 1v4 for Uncanny? That's to try and reload the weapon. Robs has a nade cooked up. It doesn't quite work. An unfortunate third party takes down Uncanny, but that was such a good effort, and Game Lord can breathe a sigh of relief. My lord. Oh, I gotta appreciate what he did. That was such a good attempt.
He the carry, right? Was that his name?
Even no,
He the carry.
I think it's Hidokiri, but you have worded it right. He the carry.
I mean, may as well. That was beautifully played. The reactions were on point, and yeah, that third party, he actually got sniped too. So what a sad way to end. I'm pretty sure his teammates were watching, cheering him on, and then just from distance, 1 bolt action shot, and boom, you're done. But that is Battle Royale. It happens. But he put on a show, and luckily for us, we did manage to catch it on the camera. With so much fighting going on, by the way, the circle has shifted deep into the heart of ruins.
And by the way, Uncanny, you can blame 7-Up for that, for not taking down YMCA when they probably should have. I'm just putting that out there. Game Lord, they survive as a duo, though. They can stay where they are. They can wait it out until the next circle. It's just on the very edge. We did have a look at Mega Power. They were holding on to the east. Golden Louis driving in, just blindly, vehicle smoking up. Not a care in the world. Desperate times call for desperate measures. It was a good start of the day for Golden Esports, but it's kind of gone horribly wrong in the last 2, at least in the last game and a half, as Louis tries to hold things down. But with a limited amount of cover, it's not looking too good for him.
Just making use of whatever he can find, a hay bale, a blown up car. He can survive this circle, but the next one is about to shift out, and it does shift up more north. Now we are actually quite truly in the heart of the ruins, with so many teams trying to breach up into this zone. This sloping hillside is a cluster of carnage and death. We have La Familia, we have Glor, we have another team right behind La Familia. I do believe that might be right there. LMV also trying to break in. And just take a look at the mini map, guys. Take a look at the map. Carnage all around.
Yeah, it's that kind of like high ground and low ground as well that we've seen in a number of teams. It seems to be the theme in today's games, and the circle shifts. Rexpect are camping 3 teams on the edge of the circle: Glor, La Familia, and LMV. So they have an opportunity to pick up a number of eliminations. Of course, they leave it too late. If they get a little bit too invested, Greek Army is driving in there as well. Mega Power, they have to push through Easter Stars. It's going to be a tough fight to take. While 3 teams, they're deep in the heart of ruins.
Glor with that grenade right now. They're trying to ignore the fight behind them and just keep pressing forwards. They know there's not much they can do to control all the chaos behind, but maybe they can take out the Greek team right there, the Greek army, I believe, and snaking up a little bit too far out of the cover of smoke, and that would be the end of that player. Glor still with 3, trying to do what they can. And this sloping hillside is definitely one of the most difficult areas to fight in because it's all open terrain, but you have slight elevation differences that give you cover in some areas, and then you're exposed immediately the next area.
And especially when you're trying to kind of be proactive, and the second you step out of one area where you think you're safe against one player or one team, another team has the angle, so you're dead right about that. LMV lost perks. They still 3 players strong. Glor down to 2. They're trying to push onto the precipice, held down by REXPECT. It's a compound. It's freedom. Greek army still not taken down. Game Nord now gonna make the push into the church area where YMCA hold it down. A wing and a prayer. YMCA, if they're gonna survive. But that's not going to be the case, at least for the time being, as a nade is thrown in the direction by Robs. Connects on to get 2. YMCA down to just 1. We switch on over to REXPECT. They see the LMV players pushing on in. They made it through the doorway. They've opened that forbidden door, but Talon can't hold on for too much longer. Hidan lift with just a sliver of health, and that's great proactive play from REXPECT.
Yeah, REXPECT realizes LMV extremely weak, so now they're going to go on the hard aggression, and they do finish out the last player of LMV. And the next circle does come on. It does shift towards the south side, so REXPECT getting a lucky break there.
Don't think anybody's in it. I don't think anybody's in the circle.
Nobody's in it because it's just all open field. I mean, I think Mega Power's barely in it, right? So the Ruins team having to move out of the Ruins now and fight up towards the hillside, the high ground. Athos down to a solo player, but Eastern Star player nonetheless. He will definitely cause some concern for some of the teams trying to rotate past them. And Red Moon, by the way, held a power position on the west side. It's not in the zone, and it wasn't too close to the zone, but that power position gives them a lot of space to work with. And you can see right now, the Red Moon team has a good opportunity to take out the team in front of them, being Rex, and potentially securing the game, because there's no other teams with Red Moon because that power position spaced so many of them away.
Yeah, you're dead right. Till we get to that point though, Evil Boy, the last player, La Familia, stab Sans in the back. What you get for changing your name to something stupid? But either way, the return kill, that's going to be the end of La Familia and 7-Up. It's just Starkey, I believe, left on his own to 100. Daddy IGL and Will trying to move out of Ruins and Athos. You said he was going to do some damage, and that's exactly what he's doing. It's a 1v1 down on the left side. It's the disadvantageous side, but not for Athos. He makes it work. He gets the kill on Will, and he stays alive. But unfortunately, Mega Power, Mega Baby, Molly takes down Athos.
That is a clear distinction between PMGC level under pressure versus not PMGC level. That was a 1v2. As he was thirsting the teammate, right? He went for the thirst, which in my opinion is a mistake. But as he's thirsting the teammate, his other duo partner managed to put some shots. That's when we saw Athos go prone instantly. And he started off that fight with like 70 HP versus a 100 HP player, but he was the aggressive one. You saw him run towards the enemy player with that confidence, and it completely threw that player off guard, and he won the 1v2. I know there's a fight going on screen, but that was beautiful to see. Red X with the prone grass play, completely demolishing Rex.
Oh my god, Red X. You said it could have been Red Moon's game, and it still is, but they're left with just one player. Mega Power. Back-to-back chicken dinners? Yes, sirree. Driving around the PEC meta. Red X tries to find one, but Logic, he says no more. This is our game. This is our back-to-back. The Nordic side are here to stay.
Nordic side coming in huge on Game 3 and Game 4. And why not, right? Because we keep talking about the overall community scores, how the teams more towards the bottom are starting to show up. And the Nordic side is one of those teams that was more towards the bottom. I believe they were 5th overall coming into today.
Yes,
we talked so much about how Italy, the 4th place team, is shooting their way up. And well, now on the Nordic side of things, Mega Power getting the back-to-back on the 2 last games for today, well, they're shooting themselves up just as well.
Yeah, and it's a little bit unfortunate that the Italian teams have done so well. I think that will hamper Nordic's chances of maybe like climbing too heavily up, because to be fair, they were a good 50 points behind the likes of Romania and France coming into today's games, and it's only the last 2 games that Mega Power has really stepped up to the plate. Either way, it will soften the blow and it will help take that away from the likes of, you know, Spain doing well, and of course UK, because the 100, even though they went down in the 1v2 in that final game, I have to say it was still a good day for the UK.
Definitely, UK showing up, Nordic showing up, all the teams just that really kind of started to show up, and this has been a trend from day 1 to day 4. Will this trend continue all the way up to day 5 and day 6? Like, I wouldn't put it past these teams. Like, we see all of these teams show really good signs of strategy and skill. Some teams just, you know, a bit more one-dimensional potentially, but they're figuring things out. So I'm really curious to see how at the end of this tournament, keep in mind, this is the first time, and PM and I both have done a community-based tournament, and the scores are so insanely close. It actually makes it really exciting, especially with teams constantly putting themselves up into the top 5 and creating that cluster of anyone can be taking the top 3 position.
Yeah, and you know, we started the day with asking the question, could LMV fill the shoes that Big had left, because Big aren't participating today? And to give them credit, in the first 2 games especially, they did. It's been a bit of a drop off overall, but there's something to be said for how well they have performed. And again, when we highlight the fact that Eastern Stars haven't really done the best today overall, Game Lord have okay moments, but not really what we've been used to in the past. That door is open for Germany. That door is open for Italy. That door is open for the Nordic countries to step up and overtake first place. But before that, we're going to go for a quick break, show you the highlights, come back, and we'll give you the match rankings of the final day. It's a mega power kind of day to end the day here in I've said the word day quite a lot. Day 4 of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. Dute, back-to-back chicken dinners for Mega Power, the Nordic region. We had Italy show up. Like, absolutely spot on. You can't argue with it as we move on to the match rankings and see how the teams performed in the last day.
Yeah, Mega Power with 21 points right there. Red Moon, you just mentioned it yourself. Italy definitely showing up. 19 points. Game Lord.
Yeah.
They had a really big first day. They kind of, I wouldn't say fell off because they've been playing somewhat consistent, but they haven't come in huge. So good to see them, you know, come back a little bit stronger. 17 points. REXPECT, nice finish as well. Eastern Stars, typically I would say 9 points is pretty good, but as far as Eastern Stars standards go, I think they're trying to catch back up to their dominant performance on the first day. And going further down the line, 7UP, okay, like bringing it back a little bit. 100, I like this out of the 100. 7 points, not a lot, but they're bringing it back for the UK side of the regions.
Big time. Again, you know, to that's the thing, is like the context of the day for the 100 individual game. Yeah, not the best, but the context of the day of the fact that they got 18 points in game 1, they got 20 points in game 2, they got 14 points in game 3. That's a hell of a lot when you add that 7 on top of it. So really good day indeed for the 100. I think it was a very much a kind of save and grace game 4 for both Game Lord and Eastern Stars. Again, the sole representatives for their community in today's games. So that means that you know, it was important at the end of the day, it kind of stays off the element of pressure that the Italian community and the Nordic communities have definitely been putting them under in today's games. And then to highlight, I suppose, REXPECT and Team Bravas, we saw 18 points together for them in this final game. A little bit of a slippery day, but a turnaround in the final one is definitely positive.
Definitely positive, yeah. And it's just the story continues. Teams that haven't yet really showed up to be in the top 3 overall are all starting to show up, be it one team from the community or both teams from the community. And unfortunately, I will have to say we will not be able to show the overalls today. So you do definitely want to tune in tomorrow at the beginning of the show where we will show the overalls. So yeah, I think that does it for today, Imperium. I think it has been quite the journey watching, you know, these teams play. And I'm always a little bit hesitant on what to expect on day number 1, but as the days go on, I'm really starting to enjoy some of these teams. I'm seeing play styles develop. I'm seeing storylines develop. The underdog story is strong with this tournament. Just teams constantly throwing themselves up there, putting themselves in contention. So I can't wait to see how the rest of all the days play out, Imperium.
Hell yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. We do have one more day this week for week number 1 of the wonderful PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. Same time, same place, same people, same faces. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on what you think. But definitely join us for another day of PUBG Mobile action. Have a lovely evening. I'll see you all tomorrow.